Live. What's going on, everyone? How you doing?
How's it going, man?
How you doing?
We are going to be going over some alchemy today with our buddy Ben Balderson, who was on with us a few weeks ago. I don't know if everyone wants to go around and just introduce themselves before we start. Go ahead.
Hi there. I'm Silas. I have my own YouTube channel. I've written a couple of books, and I look into all these various topics. I've got a pretty eclectic taste and all manner of subjects, from conspiracies, the occult, and all the way to metaphysics and I guess cosmogony and things like that.
Very good. Very good. I like that, Silas.
So my name is Luke. If you've seen some of Ben's other shows, I've been on and talked to him a couple times. I am pretty deep into the physics topics. I mean, no matter what field we're talking about, I myself am in the process of creating my own unified field theory. So as far as the whether you want to consider physics, metaphysics, either way, pretty, I would say, well-rounded in it. So, I mean, I guess that's up to whoever listens to me, whether they want to consider me that. But at the end of the day, I'm a friend of Ben. So,
Awesome, man. Well, we're happy to have you here. Should be a good discussion tonight.
oh yeah, I'm excited for it.
Yeah. So much love. Greetings. Massive love, peace, and harmony. Check out Chris and I. We do a channel from time to time, the Ronin Experience, which is highly undervalued and, in my opinion, the best channel out there on the interwebs based on quality. So, you might want to invest your time. There's a lot of upside there. For some reason, Chris didn't use some of my title suggestions. I was like,
I almost went with Mystic Maxing, but
Mystic Maxing. I thought
I liked it, but I didn't want. I don't know. I know I got too crazy.
I thought Mystic Maxing.
It's pretty solid. I mean, I'm gonna definitely put it as a hashtag.
Okay, sweet. And then I guess you didn't like the other one, Chris plus 4 straight guys.
Well, yeah, I didn't even know how many people we were gonna have here.
Hey, I know we should workshop these things. I'm just throwing out, ideas. But yeah. But to everyone listening, it's an honor to be here among these legends. Silas is the man. Regan, Balderson, Luke. I'm just meeting now, so it's an honor. And Chris, you're the man. So thank you for hosting this party. I have a feeling this might be beyond my expertise, but if I find any value to add, I will do my best. So I will, so it's an honor to be here. So much love and gratitude. Blah, blah. Check out my channel, The Ronin Experience. Join it. Check it out. It's fun.
Regan.
Yeah, I'm here. I do all things with symbolism. My channel's Symbolism, Simplified. Yeah, I pretty much dabble in every topic there is. There's no bounds. Jump into every area, whether it's metaphysics, religion, politics, etc. It's all one big place. So I'm glad to be here. Glad to share with all you guys. So
Awesome. And last but not least, Ben.
I'm Benjamin Balderson. I talk about alchemy. I've been doing debate panels, which are all kinds of different topics. So right about where Regan was sitting talking about just pretty much everything, politics. I've been doing that, trying to get into talking to people that aren't in our niche, so it's trying public outreach, but it's Benjamin Balderson is my channel name. I have a show on Tuesdays called Uncle Ted Talks, modeled after Ted Kaczynski and the Industrial Future. and what we think of it. So
Yes, and all links will be found below for all these guys' channels. They should already be there if they're not. So today we're going to go back to a video that we looked at a few weeks ago when Ben came on, and we're going to just kind of watch it, and I guess we'll like stop and go again and kind of analyze it live right as we go, like we were doing.
Yeah.
Does that sound good to y'all?
that works.
All right, cool.
Good for me.
Yep, I'm down for it.
All right, awesome. Let me pop this open then. Share screen. And let's start this thing.
This is Benjamin Balderson,
Can you hear it?
and today we're going to talk about Yggdrasil.
It's
Yes.
a little quiet.
So before we continued on with the Rune series and with basically anything else I talk about, we need to talk about Yggdrasil. So this is the filter. This is part of the filter that I put almost everything through.
Yeah, Chris, if you turn it up just
And
a touch.
this is the gift that I was given from Odin.
And so it's like blasting on my end, so I'm trying to see where I would turn it up. Let me see. Maybe on my... I don't know why it would be there, but...
This is what happens when you're real complex with the sounds, man. I just yap into a webcam.
Well, it's like it is blasting right now. That's why I'm wondering...
So this right here is your typical tree of life.
Is that louder?
Represented as Yggdrasil.
No?
It's good for me.
And here
Oh,
you've
yeah.
got your 9 worlds,
Let me see.
and this is one tree. And the thing that, and this is a correct tree, but the thing
Louder
that
or no?
Odin reminded me and
No.
showed me is that he's 3 minds, that he's 3 trees. So, and this is where we're talking about threefold God.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to be able to get it louder than that for some reason. Is that okay?
I can hear it fine.
Okay. Let's roll that. Let's roll with this then. And if anyone has trouble hearing, just maybe blast your speaker a bit. But we should be good because I hear it fine. If most of y'all are hearing it fine, I think that's as loud as we can go. Yeah. All right. Cool.
Gods. This is going to apply to any threefold being, and we'll explain how more of that works later. So the way that works then is you have a village tree, and your village tree is going to be your salt tree, or the masculine side of things. It's going to be your order, your dense mind. It's going to be the ice side, where your emotions, your past. This is going to be your amperage, the push of things. This is your crystal mind. Then you have your Odin mind, which is going to be your etheric mind. This is going to be oil, chaos, feminine. It's going to be the fire side. This is going to be the engineer, where your thoughts come from, where the future sits. This is going to be the voltage. Now, these two are polar opposite things. This is your high masculine, and this is your high masculine, and this is your high feminine. These two are polar opposites. So what we got going on here is they meet. Oops.
Good enough.
I'm not gonna go like this. So your one tree sits here, and this is your other tree is gonna come down and overlay on top of it. Actually, we should do that in red so it stands out. against the other tree and overlay on top of it. Now these two are opposing forces, and this is part of why whenever you see like representations of you, like all the old school things where they had a devil on one side and an angel on the other, throughout history, this side has pretty much been vilified. We can see Villy. This side has been vilified, and they consider this side demonic a lot of times, or evil, or dark. And part of the great work is understanding that these two go together. They're the same thing, and having an understanding of that. And those are things we'll move on to again later. So these two are actually pushing at each other while they're interlocking right here. So they're trying to push apart. The salt is trying to descend. That's your crystal mind, your hard mind. That's going to try and descend. Your oil is going to try and ascend. Just like when a plant or a person dies, if a plant dies out in the field, the first thing that's going to happen is the water and the oil are going to evaporate up out of the plant and ascend. And then the carbon and the cellular material is going to rot away, and then that will release out the salts, and the salts will descend. Okay, so these two are opposing and pushing at each other. So this is where the ego comes into play. This is where the ego comes into play, and why we need this ego right now. Now the ego is going to come over, and it's going to go like this and fill in these lines and lock this whole system together. So the ego is holding these two opposing forces together. So when we look at the ego then is going to be the earth plane. It's going to be a mix of chaos and order. This is your carbon, water, and cellular material. This is going to be a mix of masculine and feminine. It's going to be temperate. This is going to be the contractor. Now, the reason that that's called the contractor as compared to the parts house or the engineer, this is where your power comes from. Your parts, the actual density. Up here is where your thoughts come from. The etheric, the pull. So this is the tie that binds them together and creates the interplay between the two currently. That makes him the contractor, because a good idea doesn't do any good without the parts to build it. So this guy is the one that's putting it all together on this plane, the plane that we live on. So this is the ego, the body. This is the present moment, the 0 point. Where the negative of the voltage has drawn out the power of the amperage, and it happens on this plane. So this is a representation just of your body. Now, if you look, your typical system is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 chakras. And that is actually correct. But this tree works for alchemy, because we have 3 minds as an alchemist. This mind is your salt mind. Your salt mind has 3 levels. 1, 2, 3. Your oil, and you have 12 cell salts. Each of these 3 levels has 1, 2, 3, 4, making 12. Now, your oil, same thing. You have 3 levels of oil, and each level breaks down into 4 more. Here's your carbon mind, tying them together. And so you're talking your water, carbon, and cellular material here. Cellular material is hard and never ever becomes liquid. When you put that to fire, that turns to gray ash. If we look at this 0 plane, everything below the 0 plane is crystal. Everything above the crystal plane, above the 0 plane is fluid. So this part of the ego is going to be hard. That's going to be on the crystal side. That's not going to turn to gas when heat's given to it. It's going to turn to something solid, which is going to be the ash. Now carbon's going to reside here in the middle. That's why carbon is so damn weird, because it's really kind of both. It can be a solid or a liquid. When you put it to the fire, it evaporates, but it's also a more natural, like hard solid, not like ice or things like that where it turns liquid in your hand, but it still will turn into a vapor. Very odd stuff. That's the mix, the perfect mix of the two. And up here, this is your water. Your water is, in a plant, the first thing that evaporates, the first thing that leaves is the ego, because the water is clear up here on just the fluid side. And the same thing's going to apply when you're talking about greater things or lesser things, like we were talking about Titans and the opposing angels, or demons and angels, or Titans and gods, or no matter how you're going to look at it, this is how you look at as above, so below. So when you're talking about Titans or demons or Vanir, anything like that, this is your crystal beings. This is your hard masculine, your dense side. When you're talking about angels or gods or the Asir, no matter how you're looking at that, you're talking about up here, your fluid side. And they do not cross this plane. So the Asir or angels only have this etheric side. Now they are also going to have multiple pieces to them, but they don't access below this plane. So they don't have that physical power, that physical strength, where the beings on this side have just mad amounts of that physical strength, but they don't have such a high thought process, not a fast thought process. Now they have insane amounts of wisdom, but thinking of new ideas and new things. So when, like as a heathen, this is your Thor side, this is your Loki side. Odin put the three together because he's a threefold god. So everything starts out with this layout of these three things, putting them together. As a heathen, Odin gave you your high thinking, your high mind. Vili gave you your walking animal power, and Ve gave you your name, your ego. Now, the great work, or when we do alchemy on a plant, or what Odin did to himself after he activated. Well, first let's start out with Odin activating. So we have 7 chakras. That's your typical thing. And in a plant, and cannabis is an easy one because most people understand that cannabis, the higher components need to be oxycarbonated before they're active. So you've got your 3 levels of oil. Well, you'll notice, or oil, up here, 3 levels of oil. So you'll notice that if this was a cannabis plant, this level of oil would be terpene, this level of oil would be CBD, this level of oil would be THC. Well, your 7 chakras end here. So on this one, that is because the THC is not active. It needs to be oxycarbonated, which means that there's some carbon mixed into that, and it needs to go through fire in order to get that carbon molecule to drop out, leaving the purity of this oil and making it active. The same applies to all beings. This highest oil is not active. So you only have availability of 7 chakras. Odin activated his all-seeing eye. That's this eye. He activated it and then took it and threw it down the well, because here's where your thought is, here's where your wisdom is. Thought is something that you want to see happen. I would like to build a house. I want it to be like this. I would like myself to be this person in the future. This is the past. This is where the power was of it. This is where it actually is. It's a thing. So he throws his eye down the well, and the oil's job in a plant is to make the salts bioavailable. This side is the voltage. The voltage is the pull. The pull doesn't actually do anything. It calls for the power, the amperage. This is the pull. This is the amperage. So this side opens up this side. When you're talking about a plant, these oils are going to make these salts bioavailable to you. So when you eat the salts actually can do something, and it's not a hard crystal that you can't process. So he threw his eye down the well. That means when he activated and opened this eye, his Godhead, his all-seeing eye, he threw it down the well and opened up his wisdom, his all-knowing eye, his all-powerful eye. Then Odin hung himself on Yggdrasil for 9 days. During that 9 days, what you're doing is this is when you're going through the process of burning out this ego. Odin sacrificed himself to himself. So what he's doing is sacrificing the Ve in order for the Vili in the Odin minds to reach their purity, their epitome. Once this is burnt out, you put these two minds together. And that is what the alchemical marriage is. This is all the great work. So when these oils and these salts get married, they become one. Now, to make this process happen, we have to separate them. So this is Odin hanging himself and separating the two minds and burning out this third mind. Now that these two minds are at their epitome and the carbon, water, and cellular material are burnt out of the equation, these two are naturally going to try and push apart. So we need to marry them together. In a plant, when you take this pure salt, after you've completely cleansed all of this out, and you take this pure oil and you've completely cleansed all of this out, and you put them together under heat, they will lock together. Where before, under fire, this separated and went down, this separated and went up. Now locked together, the two are alchemically married. This mind and this mind are now one mind. And so under fire, they will rise together, and then they will fall together, and they will turn back into a hard solid like it would be here, and turn into a vapor here, more like carbon was before we burned it out. So a very interesting process right there. So that is the great work that we are trying to apply to everything. And when we're thinking...
Silas had a comment he wanted to make. I wanted to stop it real quick and give him a chance to ask it before we continued, because I was going to stop into and ask some things at certain points. I wanted people to be able to, if they want to do that.
I was just going to say that that video is a superb breakdown and sort of rendition of the alchemical process. Just to pick up on like a couple of things, and I found it really quite interesting how you lay out the sort of trimorphic process of not just sort of the metaphysical process, but I mean this relates to psychology as well, right? So the way I understand this, because you know I think along these sort of psychological lines, is that if we look at, for example, let's look at the Hellenic mythos, this idea of the masculine, the feminine, or the salt and the oil, even of the Titans and the Olympiads, of Saturn and Jupiter, right? So for example, let's take Saturn and Jupiter, right? And I wrote this several days ago. If Saturn is the pure, spontaneous perception of being, his son Jupiter represents reflexive consciousness, our ability to reflect upon objects and ourselves in a representational way. This is also found in several, well, funnily enough, it's sort of found in the Trinitarian concept, right? I merely just use this as a sort of a metaphor, but there I didn't make a note of the chapter and verse here in the Bible, but it states, quote, "The Son is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation." So this relates back to, again, the sort of trimorphic protonoia in Greek, or translated from Greek. It's the threefold first thought. So the idea is the sun is the representation of that agnostos, theos, right? That source. So in a sense, what you're seeing is that man is almost in consciousness itself, is the epitome of both mutability and immutability, or of the salt and the oil. It's the convergence of them all. But this is something you also see, funnily enough, in physics as well, or at least there's some sort of theories surrounding this. The idea, and I wrote here, and this will be my final point. If the so the idea of the Gödelian incompleteness theorem. So, without going into the sort of full details of that, the idea is this applied to this case. I wrote this here that if I can find the bloody thing. Yeah. So somebody mentioned that I have a general defeater for any divinity wherein one posits that it has infinite being, aka it is eternal. I believe this steps over any particular theological argument and just pulls the rug of the whole edifice. Although, and he goes on to state something else, but I said this. It's what you're effectively saying is, if the incommensurate deity acts, if the immeasurable deity acts, it enters time and is no longer infinite. If it remains infinite, it cannot act. Hence, for the theological explanation or mere spirituality to be, man must be literally the ontological epitome, assumed to be a representation of the immutable and the mutable simultaneously. Basically a carrier of the source itself, while still being still acting as a sort of projector for that. With this is the idea you're seeing in alchemy. So the idea is that basically all of the cosmos is sort of hardwired to work on this self-referential paradox that can never complete. It must remain in this incomplete state for existence to exist, if you will, right? So the idea is found in something Regan's brought up before, this idea of the asymptote, which is the idea of the horizon. You'll never, it's I believe in mathematics, it's a curve. So it's the idea of the horizon. You'll never reach it. You'll never reach this this sort of completeness, or finding completeness within this sort of paradox of existence. It has to. It runs on incompleteness itself, and man is the epitome of that. And this is what you're seeing with the sort of, I guess you would say, the alchemical formula you're putting forward, Ben.
I have two questions real quick. One, at the top of the like top right, where you kind of see like the light glare, there's a letter on each side of that. Can you tell me what that is real quick? It's like right under light and on both sides of
Do you remember
the
what they are, Ben? I see one is the left side is R, and it's like I don't know if what is it?
Mars.
The Mars symbol, and the right side is, man,
I think it's Venus, is it not?
I can't even read it with the light shining on it. Hold on, I can move it. So then it's as above, and it's like another, or a similar symbol to, L.
So
So
is this just left?
Yeah, is this just right and left, Ben?
You're muted.
You're muted, Ben.
Yeah, just right and left.
Okay. And then I think at one point when you switched over and you were talking about the Ville, you were saying something about the number 12. Can you expand on that a little bit more? Like, is there a number association with each of the processes of this?
Yes. So the basic breakdown is each tree is 3 diamonds, right? And so when you stack them together, this is where you get your 9 right there. But then when you break them down into an individual tree, each of the diamonds has 4 points. So like when you're looking at like the salt side, this is where you get the 12 cell salts. And if you ever look at the 12 cell salts, you'll notice that each time the words keep repeating themselves, like Cali mirror, and then there'll be a phosphorus mirror. There's it keeps repeating the same thing, so it's actually 4 different aspects of the same thing in each time, and so that level actually that's where you get your 12 from. Is each of the 3 diamonds has 4 aspects to it.
Okay, and is there a 3-dimensional representation of this, or is it mainly just the standard 2-dimensional?
I would love to have a 3-dimensional representation. We made one. It absolutely is 3-dimensional, but we made one, but I don't know how to do it on the computer. We haven't. I've got to get a program.
And then
up with the cell salts.
I think to put a little bit of, I guess, my my knowledge that I have, when you were talking about things kind of having to be separate, and you can't really have like a full unification. You can't have like a full even board all across the board. It's pretty similar to the idea of, for example, when symmetry breaks from the Higgs field and you get actual particle formation, which then gives mass. If you don't actually have that breakaway to where you have a separate entity, you don't have anything. That's what actually gives the physicalness to things.
Exactly. Exactly. And then it ends up becoming
Which, if you want my honest opinion on it, the way that the field, quote unquote, has evolved over time, it's literally all the same field, just changing through different realizations. You realize that this doesn't work, so we do a little tweak here. And at the end of the day, I personally don't use the term ether often unless I'm talking about like legacy, like EM mechanics, stuff like that. But truth be told, the Higgs field itself is really no different than the original idea behind the etheric field.
Yeah, the etheric field being where these transactions take place. This is in alchemy, the concept is Mercury or mercurial. That's why when you see the representations of Mercury, like he's the messenger, or he's any kind of transaction, monetary transactions, things like that, because and he sets the bounds, because it's only where Mercury is that you can actually make this transaction. Like, if it was electricity and you put the power over here and the ground over here, this whole field is now charged. It's going from here to here. That's the Mercury is where that's happening. That's the etheric field. And then in that, it really, the salt and the sulfur, the high mind and the low mind are actually the very same thing. They're just split and polarized against each other, which is what's causing the field in the first place.
So that's similar to the idea of like a perturbation in the etheric field, like as Ken Wheeler would say. It's like the same type of thing. That's what's actually causing the light or the sound to be produced, is like the disruption in that field. Okay.
Yeah, it's only one of the big disagreements I would have with Ken is that he wants to look at everything as a dissension. Mm-hmm. And there is a dissension there, but the dissension meets the ascension. Like the chaos has to have a target. The you can hold a power wire, and if it's got nowhere to ground, it doesn't do anything. You've got to have that negative side of things to match the positive in order to get that movement. And then you also need the field that it resides in, which is your etheric or mercurial field.
Okay, cool.
What do you think regarding consciousness as this sort of wild card, and what's its effect upon fields themselves, or just upon even light and manifestation itself?
Well, for me, your consciousness is your pure sulfur. That's your intangible, your pure energetic thing that has almost no body to it. And what that needs to do, like when you're looking at the true great work, what you're doing is the salt is the power to do these things, to do all this awesomeness, but it's locked up. And so the mercury opens up the salt and makes it fluid. And now the salt can unite with the sulfur, and the sulfur imbues the salt, giving it like direction, form, something to do. And now the two coagulate together. And this is part of why, like in the fucking stone, it's freeing both sides to where you have all the materials to do anything, and you have the high mind to imagine anything, but the two are disconnected, and you need to reconnect them, is where the problem is. And that's really what the carbon body's doing. The carbon body's creating, I like to think of it in the terms of like electrical today. The carbon body's creating ohms. But if you want to do the great work, what you're going to do is burn out the carbon body, and you're going to turn a conductor into a superconductor. And so now the thing that you think and the materialization of it happen at the same time. You don't have this time period, because that's where the time's coming from, is that flow through the circuit. And you can even measure that time. In a superconductor, there isn't any time. The two things exist at the same time on both ends. And this is what you're trying to achieve here.
I think it's interesting that, like, in a very basic way, I think it was probably on either a Ronin show or it's probably on both, even in discussions with Silas and Regan before, when I've tried to just describe my very simplified idea of how consciousness as source could have broken into archetypes to know itself, like various personalities that it would turn into. You couldn't just have a split into two, because those two would be completely opposite polarities, and there'd be nothing in the middle. So you'd almost have to have that outside source of consciousness, the creator, turn into like a trinary, like it would be a triplet. And then those three would then eventually create all the archetypes of consciousness that would then descend into matter. And I feel like that kind of matches this, as retarded and simple and as scattered as that seems. It just makes sense to me that there would have to be a split of three from like a source consciousness.
Yeah, that's the as above, so below. The way the whole system works. Each individual mind works exactly the same as the whole, so it's fractal, 100%.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool.
The 1 through 9, that is for the days that he was on the tree, correct?
Yes.
So, and I feel like I can't help but point this out, of course, but because of that, you do know that if you just turn it sideways, you have a waveform in superposition going through entropy with a time base. So you have a frequency going through entropy, literally losing its structure, dispersing out.
Makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
This is that similar to scalar waves and such?
No.
No.
So It kind of depends on what you mean by scalar. So if we're talking about scalar in reference to like, something Tesla was talking about, that's a little bit different than, for example, there's a scalar wave within quantum mechanics. So
Right.
it depends on what you mean by scalar. For example, the scalars within quantum mechanics, that's just a form of measurement. So it's the whole quantized part of it. It's the smallest possible way that we could, for the most part, measure something.
See.
Just imagine a dot. So,
Yeah.
like, if we have 1, 2, 3, 4D objects, if we're talking
Mhm.
about that, then we got to break them apart from tensors, matrices, vectors, and then scalars being the smallest one. So you basically put a whole dot system everywhere to measure said wave function. The ones that Tesla was talking about, or anybody like around that time, or that was into that work, like the legacy EM guys that I was talking about, that's going to be a little bit more of a wave of the underlying field itself and how that field itself contains and transfers information.
I brought it up just because you mentioned the Higgs field. I recall in passing I don't have a lot of knowledge in physics, but in passing it was called a scale. I believe it was called a scalar field as well. I just
Yes.
was wondering if there was a
So
connection there.
so the way that works is it's basically at some point, if y'all want to get into it, I do have visual simulations to like literally show you instead of tell you, but you can imagine a tensor as a cube with a bunch of like grids going through it, right? You can imagine a matrix as a plane that's very similar. A vector is just a simple arrow. Scalars are going to be, for the most part, the dots that make up, each intersection point of those
see.
meshes. So, like, if you
Yes,
imagine a graph, every single spot where the lines intersect, you could assign a scalar to those.
I see it. They're almost what's the word? Transversal.
Yes,
Yes.
although they classify them as 0 dimension, and I would not. I would classify it as 1 dimensional.
Right. I see. I see. I see. My apologies for going on a bit of a tangent there.
No,
It's,
I
Good stuff.
I think it's good to, if any, like I said in the private chat, if anyone wants me to stop again to ask anything, just put it in the private chat and I'll pause it. So let's continue from where we were.
And turn into a vapor here, more like
That's the right spot, right?
About there, yeah.
Okay.
carbon was before we burned it out. So a very interesting process right there. So that is the great work that we are trying to apply to everything. And when we're thinking about the way we're put together, we need to understand that this tree that they normally represent, because this is all we have access to, isn't all that there is. And so when we're looking at that, this is more the Kabbalistic tree. We've got to cut out the Godhead. We've got to cut out the Titan root. And then we've got to go ahead and circumcise this bugger and cut that down too. Because they are very etheric, very feminine cosmology. We'll talk about that at another point in time. So this is what they're working with, as opposed to this, which is a full tree. And understanding that even if this isn't available, even if the THC in the cannabis isn't available, that all it takes is a little bit of fire and all of a sudden that one's active, and this is the truth. So if we lived our entire life, and this is part of where the gifts of Baal comes into this equation, if we lived our entire life without any heat, this would never become active. You would never, ever be able to make this active, because that only activates under the fire. then this never becomes active. And these two, the whole object is to put these together. That's where you're going to get your Jormungandr. Where did I put that? Here's your tree. And when you activate your Godhead and activate your Salt Mind, and you put them together, the two lock in together, and there you have your snake biting its tail, your Jormungandr, all those things. You've now completed the cycle, and now because of that, because you've taken out this interference, when instead of having a contract or a engineer that has to go to the contractor, to go to the part house, to go back to the contractor, to try and get something to manifest on this plane, the engineer and the parts house are both here at the same time. So it's thought happen, manifestation, all right here. This is where we're talking about instant manifestation, because we've taken out, oh, that's missing on here. Why isn't that on here? Ohms. So the Villian Vey mind electrically, we got voltage, we got amperage, and then we've got ohms. Now the ohms, when the whole system was being put together, had to be there, or else the whole system was going to fall apart. But now we're turning this into a superconductor by taking this portion out, and these two are coming together, so there's no ohms in any way. We're talking about instant power, a superconductor. This is what you're becoming. There's so many different levels that you can take this and apply this to everywhere, because this is just the way things work. This is the way plants work, all carbon-based life forms, everything. So this is when I'm talking about things, and I'm talking about the tree of life, this is just how the things work and the movements of things. When I'm talking about a Vanir or a demon, I don't put that evil connotation onto it, because all that is a crystal being, a salt being. And these beings operate in a certain way. And I take that into account. When you're talking about etheric, a seer, angels, whatever you want to call it, you're just talking about oil beings. I'm taking that into account.
My question real quick, and I think you might have just answered it, but I'm going to assume that the order of the process that you do 100% matters.
Absolutely that matters. The stable side, the oil side, super crazy delicate. So like myself, like if I'm doing processing and I really want to get crazy about it, I literally will take like a plant for spagyrics and I will flash freeze that plant. That way it locks in, and you got to do that before the sunlight hits. You have to pick it before the sun, go take it, flash freeze it, because otherwise you start losing these things on the upper end. Those are super volatile, and you start losing them right away, and you've got to get that locked in. And then as soon as it's flash frozen, you process it and get it locked in, and then you're all right. Then you're all right, because you can always recollect it inside your system by cooling it down.
Okay, that's why I was asking. So, for example, when I was asking about the 12, I was kind of starting to get the idea that for the most part, the image you have here and the process that it works through, it's very similar to how the order matters for matrices when it comes to their 12-step integrations. So like you have to do each step in a specific order to get the correct outcome. Because if not, you're gonna be way off.
100%. Yeah, because then even inside each diamond, it's fire fraction, air fraction, water fraction, and earth fraction. And obviously the earth fraction's the most stable, and the fire fraction's the least stable. And you've got to do it in order each time the entire way.
I'm good. That was all I had.
Cool.
I was going to make just a really quick comment. could we almost simplify this to the idea of so I brought up Saturn and Jupiter, right? Saturn being, if you will, beingness, and that sort of source, and Jupiter being the sun, if you will, which is the image of this invisible God, if you will, this beingness, which is the reflexive or representational consciousness. So what you find with, and you typically find this with civilizations and such, right? As civilizations advance, the population typically becomes more abstract in their thinking. As we see with representational consciousness, people tend to become tethered to those representations. They tend to become completely ruled by abstractionism, right? We may call this materialism as well, but so is the idea that we're sort of putting forward here in a psychological sense, is it that idea that we no longer we're no longer ruled by those representations, we're no longer ruled by sort of the endless churning of the mind, that we've created a sort of a union of opposites between beingness and that representational consciousness? Is that a sort of sound thing to say?
Yeah. And then that thing has to be grounded, which is where we manifest that here. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
So that's the medium itself. Yeah. Right. Okay. Right.
Okay. Everyone good?
Yeah, man.
Okay, cool.
And neither side is good or evil. Both sides have their own agenda. They're just like any other person. If I met a new person on the street, I wouldn't make the assumption that they're...
You say something, Ben?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay.
Good nor evil, and I would let their actions and my interactions with them determine that. And I would also understand that they have their own agenda. Who doesn't? We all have things that we want to see. That's just common sense. And that's common sense always needs to be applied to everything. And then when you're looking at the tree here, this side's going to be more feminine. This side's going to be more masculine, even though this is the feminine side of things. And then this is going to be more, and then this is going to be more feminine, and this is going to be more masculine. Everything's going to have, this is why you say as above, so below. Because once you break down the whole, the pieces of the whole all still work the same on each level. And so some beings just don't make this level. And there's a whole lot of other different occult meanings. Thank you, grandson. There's a whole lot of other occult meanings that we'll end up getting into later on. Like, this is the past, this is the future, and the future writes the past, and which brings it to manifestation in the present, all kinds of different things. But you've got to have a whole lot of understandings in between here and there. So I think that's about a good place to stop with here. And then also understanding that this is also the people that have hidden things or lost things, whichever you're going to want to believe, they understood this at one point in time. This is part of why all symbology fits in here. Well, masculine side, the masculine's angular, straight lines. Feminine is round and circular. So the way this actually would work as an entire thing is then the feminine tree of life or flower of life would overlay this, and this would overlay, and we'll go through that also later. But for the straight line symbology, you've got your positive pentagram. Oh, here's the evil one. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? You've got every single symbology. You've got the runes, all these different symbols all fit in here. And even from the Abrahamic side, if I take this and I go like this and I make this after I take the snake head and the snake head bites the tail, then this symbol will cross that symbol, and that's a really shitty looking 6-pointed star, but makes the 6-pointed star, which is Solomon's symbol, and that's why Solomon had access to both legions of angels and demons, and had so much power on this plane and was able to just do everything. If in the story angels were all powerful and all knowing, and they were just the right hand of God and capable of everything, why was he given control of legions of demons? Just so they can hang out doing evil shit? Doesn't make sense. You got to start putting some damn logic to it. So he had both sides. So the symbol of Solomon, your 6-pointed star, is this crossing this. And my own personal symbol, which is Othala, biting Fehu. So that's where the perfection of your etheric mind crosses the perfection of your dense mind, and you have perfect access to both. So, and that's about where we're going to stop. Thanks, guys.
The message.
That last bit wasn't me.
Yeah.
I don't know who that lady was, but that was funny.
I'm like, that's not Ben.
But that was awesome, Ben.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
There was something I was going to ask. In Norse mythology, at the bottom of Yggdrasil, there's this serpent that gnaws at the roots.
The Needhog.
Needhog, yeah. What's your opinions upon that, and how do you think that ties in with both just alchemy in general, or esotericism in general, and your own alchemical model there?
I think the Needhog is basically representing the guardian for the chakra at the bottom of the tree that needs to be opened. And then if you reverse that, there's an eagle that sits on top of the tree. Mm-hmm. Actually, and because it's at Yggdrasil itself is actually two things locked together. It's Irminsul and Mjolnir locked together. I can't find my Irminsul, but when you look at the Irminsul, that's the top of the tree, and then there's an eagle sitting on top of that, and these are the two guardians that are for the two chakras that we don't have open.
So it's the same idea as the polarity again. Interestingly, as well, this idea of the eagle is also found in Kabbalah. I believe it's. Oh God, I forget where in the Zohar now, but it discusses this idea of the black eagle, a prophecy of the black eagle, and the idea is it's very similar to the phoenix, which is that at the end of the world age, once this sort of conflagration comes about, that could be a global happening, or it could be some sort of spiritual awakening. Who knows, right? But the idea is that that ascends to heaven. And the blackness is almost like the Negredo. And you were mentioning this notion of the separation. So the separation that you pointed to in that alchemical model of yours is that is effectively just the Negredo. It's the putrefaction. It's the breaking of things down. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Specifically, when you're looking at the Negredo, that part is when you're breaking down the body of the thing. And so the blackening is actually the carbon. It's no different than if you cook your food for too long, the carbon starts coming to the top and you see the carbon start activating. Or if you're making biochar, you throw the wood in some heat and then get it super hot and then spray it down and cool it off, and it's all just black char. This is the activating that carbon and bringing that carbon up.
Did you want to make a comment, Luke?
Yeah, I was gonna. What's
Yeah.
the exact name for that, real quick? Because I want to see if I can find a three-dimensional version of it.
I made this is my I made this myself, Luke.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, this is out of my own mind. All done on the original ones were all just done on big white boards. And because I'm very computer handicapped, I would love to have one that's three-dimensional, and then also not only three-dimensional, but if you overlay the flower of life over it, then you start seeing how can you are you able to bring it up without playing it so we can just look at it?
The video?
Yeah.
Yeah. Get to
The reason I ask is because I don't know if you remember or not, but when I was talking to you before and making the connection between Metatron's cube and the quarter neon, how they're literally the same geometric shape.
Yeah, I was hoping you would go here because also, if you look at the Buckminster Fuller shape, which is basically the flower of life, you just cut off the top, which you actually do when you make the Buckminster Fuller shape. You cut the tops off of the original shape where it's two diamonds, and then you just flat top them. And that's how you make the, like when they're making the buckyballs.
The buckyballs, yeah.
Right, and that's what for the most part, like if I was to describe the actual geometric shape of the quarter neon, I would really say it is a sphere, but depending on the mechanics that are going on, it allows for the other geometry to emerge. So that's when it can become like Metatron's cube, depending on what you're actually tracking with it. I mean, you can get the tree of life out of it. So it depending on
the
exactly
tree of life would be
on.
inside of it. You know what I mean? Inside of the circle. Like when you're looking at like a buckyball, it's 8 of those shapes actually interlocked, which is where you get the 9, because the center one's the 9 and the outer ones are the 8. But just like in the outer valence shell of any molecule, 8's where you reach that area of stability.
Right. So depending on the spin orientation of it, and the oscillation rate of it, it allows for constructive and deconstructive interference to happen to then give said whatever geometry is dependent on said oscillation rate. So like the circle could easily become
Did we lose
cube.
him or did you all lose me?
No, I can hear both of you.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yep.
Chris, can you hear me?
Chris, just change your sound settings to something else and change them back. If you can hear me.
You guys go ahead. Something's wrong with my thing.
It's a StreamYard glitch that's been happening for about 2 months. Can somebody in the chat tell Chris to just change his? Well, I guess he's.
I remember that happened to me a couple weeks ago or whenever it was, but yeah, so it can end up. You could have a sphere end up becoming a cube. You could have it being a octahedron, a dodecahedron, or whatever, depending on what the actual interference pattern is that comes up.
What do you think regarding what are your opinions upon the double slit experiment and back to consciousness itself? From your point of view, Ben, in terms of alchemy, and Luke, your point of view in terms of physics, how do you see consciousness? Is consciousness itself an interference pattern, or is it the initiator of interference patterns?
When y'all talk.
Hello.
Oh man, I hate when this happens. I might have to bounce out and bounce back in.
Yeah, that'll fix it.
That shouldn't stop. Fuck. I don't know if that shouldn't stop this, but as long as y'all are streaming, I don't think.
I'm streaming, yeah.
Yeah.
Chris, you can
Okay,
hear
I'll be
us.
right back in. Y'all stay in here. It should be fine.
You can't hear.
Yeah, I think that's the issue.
Yeah, it's a glitch that appeared when StreamYard started added the vertical. This glitch appeared right about then, where all of a sudden one person on the panel can't hear some other people.
Someone talk again.
They can all hear
Just
him.
try.
Hello.
Nothing.
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Benjamin, this is also a Chris Minor Productions glitch. This happens every single week, every single time we do a show longer than 2 months. So this is a Chris Minor production thing, Benjamin.
There you go.
And the
It's
added
Chris's fault.
yard complexities doesn't help either, I'm sure.
It's the curse of Chris.
The curse of
Yeah,
Chris.
we can. I guess we can probably wait a second for him to come back, but Ben might want to answer you first because mine might be a little bit longer.
When you're looking at the double slit experiment and the effective consciousness, so this is where like some people want to say that you have infinite, because when you're imagining it, the chaos side is infinite possibilities, but then the salt side is finite possibilities. So you do have more than what a person would think, but there's also obviously when I go to build a house, how I can build my house depends on what I have available for. Can you hear now, Chris? You hear now, Chris?
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Depends on what you have available for supplies. So it's got to have that ground, that specific negative. Like if you look at a decay chain, uranium can't become anything but eventually lead. It's eventually got to get to that place, but there's a bunch of stuff in between, where you can get real wild, but it's still got to have a specific destination. So you could alter it, but you can't like make it do things that it wouldn't naturally do. Like while it changed the double slit experiment slightly, it's not like you're observing it was going to make the particles hit something that was behind the projection or something like that. So you can make slight alterations, but it's still got to fit inside a certain parameter.
Yes, it's a range of possibilities or potential. So consciousness is the sort of is like a probability. What would the word be? A probability sorter in a sense. Yeah.
All right. So I feel like I should start with this, but there are some people that don't like the way that I interpret some things because they think that I'm trying to take away from the spiritual, or I'm trying to kind of, reduce all of the weird stuff out there. Ben can tell you that's not what I'm doing. I am actually trying to bring it actually all together and use the most realistic approach to bring it together. So I just wanted to say that beforehand. As far as the double slit experiment goes, at the time during the Copenhagen interpretation, the phrase of observer was used. And the issue is that they couldn't really see how it would evolve over time. I think if they could go back, they definitely wouldn't use that phrasing now. And currently, the most universally accepted interpretation of it, which is one that I actually agree with. There's a lot with whether we're talking about the standard model, whether we're talking about QED, QFT, or even relativistic frameworks that I do not agree with. But this is one that I do agree with some little tweaks to it. So the universally accepted interpretation of it now is it's based off of whether which path information is available. What that means is if the information itself of any particular path is able to be measured or extracted, this will cause a change in the interaction. So, what it really is it's an entanglement between the measuring apparatus and the basically whatever you're sending through the slit itself, whether we're talking about electrons or whether we're talking about photons. So there's actually a interaction between said apparatus and whatever you're sending in that will affect whatever the object is, and it will change um, what it's actually able to do because of those two actually being entangled together.
So it's well, firstly, it's basically at the beginning it was a semantic glitch, which has sort of evolved over time, and like what you're saying, it's been sort of and I guess the spiritual or New Age circles, it's people have ran with it, with that semantic glitch, and then secondly as well, the idea that you're mentioning is it's almost it doesn't change the objective reality. It's just a sort of subjective measurement of that. So it's not necessarily what would the word be? It's not
It's a physical interference.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
What I was going to say is with this, especially, I mean, not to bring up Ken Wheeler constantly, but he kind of showed it as just two separate interference patterns that are being showed at one time. And he actually did it himself with a laser.
Right. So, because you have to think, if it was some kind of actual observer effect, you just watching it, whether the measuring apparatus is there or not,
Yeah.
would alter said interference pattern. But that doesn't happen. It's solely based off of the apparatus itself. And there are few, and typically they try to, brush them off. But there are a few actual examples to where the apparatus was actually left in place, but not actively measuring, and said interference patterns still happen because even at the distances where the apparatus was still at, you still have some sort of field interactions going on. Because I mean, people say that we are, for the most part, filled with just empty space, right? So, like in between all of the atoms and all of that, it's just empty
You
space.
have been on the panel verse.
That is wrong. We are actually filled with field interaction. So even at the smallest scale, the field itself is constantly fluctuating, like you were talking about earlier, Chris. There is always something going on, even at the smallest scale. And even if you think something is actually empty space, it's really not. Now, in my opinion, as far as consciousness goes, I don't necessarily think that it resides in what we think of as like our physical bodies. I think the actual information that consists of said consciousness resides within the field interactions in between.
I agree with that.
So when you're looking at this centerpiece is just the 4 diamonds, or the 3 diamonds, I mean, the tree of life. But when you add, that's the masculine side. When you add this feminine side, that's when each of these starts looking like an eye, because it gets that Vesca Pisces overlaid on it when you overlay the flower of life. And then when you're looking at it, your 2 energetic movements, your snakes, are going. So then your 2 snakes are going to go and then switch side over here and then go over here. Then your other one's going to come back up like that. It's poor drawing. And I never said I'm an artist.
I would just like to point out that you kind of drew carbon. I don't know if you realize it or not, but that actual depiction you just drew is what carbon, for the most part, looks like. It looks like three donuts, three toroids, whichever one you want to say. It looks like three of those stacked atop each other.
It's why carbon's that perfect middle locking piece in that whole thing.
Yes, it has flexibility, but it also has memory to it, to where even if it is distorted, it still kind of remembers its shape.
What the fuck is the name of that metal? Like that metal?
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. I don't remember the name of it either.
Which one?
There's a metal you can literally like take it and just like you can bend it all kinds of crazy and then just hit it with a little heat and it'll go right back into its original shape. Like it remembers what that shape was.
I know what you're talking about too.
They use it in attempts at free energy and whatnot because
nickel titanium alloy, shape memory alloy. That's what I'm getting.
Memory metal.
Memory metal.
Shape memory alloy.
Nithanol.
They actually are calling it shape memory alloy.
There we go. It's nithanol.
Yeah, that's the one.
Google coming in clutch.
It does have its uses.
While we're on the subject, I don't want to get on too much of a tangent, but just because you guys are here and it's a good
Get on that
for me. Right. So regarding black holes and the idea that, of course, one theory is regarding black holes that is this, or so I've heard, is that information, of course, it can't be destroyed necessarily. One theory is that black holes are the destruction of that information once it passes the event horizon. But what are your opinions upon black holes in terms of, so for example, Ben, in terms of your model of alchemy and just your general thoughts on it, and Luke, how would this tie in with perhaps the unified field theory that you're looking to create and such?
I'll let Ben answer again first because I'm not even kidding you. Last night I actually did a entire show on black holes, so I'll let him answer first.
It's because you mentioned it, and it just I was like, oh, I'll ask him about that. Yeah, sorry, Ben, go.
So when you're looking at these two opposing sides, the two opposing sides, you can imagine them as worlds. The black hole and these two things are always going to be oppositional. So you're never going to have anything. Where a black hole comes in is it grabs both of them and forces those things together. It's the Vesca Pisces where these two things meet, is where you have life, where you know what happens when the immovable force, which is the ice side, meets the unstoppable object, which is the fire side. Well, you get life. And so the Gununga gap is the all-mother in that situation. So that's what your black holes are. And it's pulling these two things together. And then obviously there's destruction. This is why alchemically destruction always precedes life. Because where they meet, obviously there's destruction, but now the components are there for life.
Isn't there also hydrogen that comes out, like spews out around black holes?
Spews out around them, yeah. The basic building block of everything.
Just one final question to ask you, Ben, before you jump in, Luke. In terms of the portrayal of Ymir, metaphysically, how would you interpret that? I believe that also occurred in Gununga Gap, this yawning gap. How would you interpret that?
So the way the sequence of events goes, and it just becomes fractal. You start out with the all, which is everything. And the all splits into an immaterial and a material. The immaterial is Gununga Gap or the void or the black hole. And then the material side, because you can't split immaterial, you can't split nothing. On it, you split the material side splits and goes through the same process that the all is going through, because we need to understand things from the material side. So then that splits into a fire and ice, and the Gununga Gap pulls them back together. Now in that creation, you end up with Ymir, which is the frozen ice giant, and a Dumbla, the great cow, and like she starts licking at the icy rind on Ymir, which then produces the next level of life where it starts fractaling out more. You get dwarves and giants and gods and things like that. So all of this is up to this point very chaotic, kind of formless. There isn't much going on. And this is when the three brothers go to the salt side and they form this realm that we're living in right now. And so this is the combination of that. And he was the building blocks that were used to build that.
Yeah, his corpse was utilized to basically we're living in the shell of his corpse. So,
Yeah.
so the idea really you're seeing with that is similar to the Ordo ab Chaos, but it's almost like life itself is born of death, but it's living within the shadow of a previous cycle, a previous sort of
Always.
cycle of death. Yeah, always. Yeah.
Even something so simple as my garden. You know, presuming out in nature, you aren't adding a bunch of fucking shit chemical fertilizers and miracle growing stuff. The next generation literally lives off the components of the generation before it. Your plant breaks down and the nitrogen releases and the potassium releases and all those things. And that's the building blocks that the next generation of plants is going to use to create its life over and over and over.
Solvate coagula, right?
But eventually, this sort of this world age or this cycle must meet that sort of dissolution of the end. You know, the black hole.
Right. Well,
reach that once more.
I don't think it reaches a black hole, but so this is part of why my unified theory basically makes the world into a galvanic battery. And what we're seeing is the deterioration of that battery power. And it does eventually need a recharge. And this is what the Ragnarok story is. So to me, the luminaries are actually, and this is part of why they're assigned metals. And if you ever look up the metals that they're assigned, they go in descending galvanic order where they degrade, one more spot down. So even when you take lead all the way up to gold, it's all galvanic change. Now, that's where when you look at the Ragnarok story, Surt drives his fiery sword through all the planets, through all the luminaries, and through the earth, and everything gets burnt, and then it gets washed back over with water. To me, this is biblically it would be the salt that doesn't have its flavor anymore. It's lost its charge, its vibrance, its life, and that recharge does need to happen. But I think once the Gununga gap is out of the situation, like the initial creation, we can't really quantify it after that. It's like it's the life and death that just comes and goes in the place. That's why she's always got two names. She's the life giver and the destroyer, where the masculine side, they only have one name and one job.
Yeah, it's you actually see, interestingly, a similar thing with Saturn. I don't know if you see it with Hellenic, both the Latin Hellenic and Hebraic or Abrahamic faiths, which is, well, for example, the Hellenic one, you see Saturn almost takes on this, sometimes it's associated with the crone. So it's associated with both night, but it's also associated with the structures of the day. So it's almost associated with the gold, and also, this auspiciousness of the gold, but also the inversion of that gold, which is lead, which is weird. I don't know if you have any comments to make upon that, and then I'll let Luke jump in.
I do, and it actually matches the Greek idea of who's the two brothers?
Castor and Pollux.
Castor and Pollux. So everybody understands that Castor is the great shining light, and they look at Pollux and say the defiled one, but Paul actually Pol is hidden in Lux's light. So Pollux is actually the little light, And those two, depending on the situation, are interchangeable, like reversible. Like I said, literally the fire side and the ice side are the same thing. They've just been broken apart and polarized against each other. But when you put them into the marriage, it's actually the entirety of the masculine side, and then the feminine is the life inside of it.
I see.
Yeah, it's interesting because of there's like some occult traditions that will have like your soul as if you're a male, it will say your soul is like feminine, where that kind of aligns with what you're saying, but it wouldn't align then if you're a female, because then they say the soul's masculine in the same traditions.
Right. Yeah,
so
no,
it's
the one
like a
side,
half truth
one
almost.
side is always chained to a block. This is why, like even in the tarot, in the Satan side, they're chained. The souls are chained to a block that needs to be opened up, and then it's imbued with the other side. So the two things become one thing, and it frees the trapped soul, because the soul's trapped and tied to the block. It's locked in crystal, but there's still a light in there. It's the pollux, the hidden light.
The sun behind the sun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What are your opinions upon this idea regarding the black hole, Luke, and this notion of this being the terminus of information, that the information just ends there, it dissolves entirely?
So, before I go into this, I gotta ask everybody for permission to sort of go on a run with this, because we kind of have to clarify a little bit what information is, a little bit of dimensional stuff, and as far as what Einstein's equations actually say. So,
Go
do I
for
have
it.
everybody?
Didn't ask you to come in to look pretty, Luke.
Can I ask
Wait.
one question before we get into that?
Absolutely.
Because it's been something that's it bothers me every time that I think I've discussed it with Silas or Regan, Ronin, whoever I've discussed it with. The idea of entanglement. What are your thoughts on entanglement? And what would the implication be if they considered, because obviously the etheric model is not really considered by a lot of the scientists who are studying entanglement. They're thinking it's, I don't know what they're thinking. I mean, wouldn't that change sort of if you're having this connection between like two electrons or two fields via an etheric field versus it just magically being connected through nothing?
So the idea, and one, I personally try to stay away from philosophical things, and that's my personal thing. If anybody is into it, that's great, and I know it has its places and uses and all that stuff. I just stick, for the most part, strictly to the physics stuff, right? As far as entanglement goes, there's kind of two parts to it, right? There is a situation of interaction, and there is the more long-term entanglement. So, like, the interaction thing is when you have some sort of change of information and the two systems become entangled, right? They're basically communicating with each other. Like where we were talking about the apparatus measuring whatever going through the double slit.
Yeah.
During that moment of entanglement, I mean, to simplify it in the best way I can say, it is no different than us having the conversation that we're having right now. You have a conversation of whatever is going through the slit and the actual device that's measuring it. There's a change, or there's a transfer or exchange of information. It's basically saying, "Hey, I have these values and this order," and the apparatus measures it. Now, when we talk about entanglement in a situation where, like, say a photon is split by a crystal, that gets a little bit more in the weeds of the situation,
Yeah,
because
that's the one I'm having issues
so
with.
we kind of have to talk about the speed of light and how time works for it in relation to Lorentz contraction. So Lorentz contraction is basically when you get to the speed of light itself, the spatial distance in front of said object actually shrinks to the point of, like, at the speed of light, that distance is zero. So this is why sometimes you'll hear people say that from a photon's perspective, it is timeless. It doesn't experience time. The moment of emission is the same as the moment of absorption. So any information said photon has at the point of absorption, it also has at emission. So even if you split it with a crystal, the information between the two split photons is still within each other, and they're basically still the same object no matter what. And they both have information of whatever path they were originally going to be going on to begin with.
And now, as for a photon, we're basically talking about a field of some sort, right? Because we're not gonna. There's no
light.
Yeah.
Light. Yeah. So
So-
like the
So, like, I guess the question is, since these come from the same source of light, are they're still connected through the ether at all times, are they not?
no, because they specifically in a situation of light, they already had the information of being split and being absorbed at the point that they were emitted. It sounds really weird to say, and it's not information traveling faster than the speed of light. It is all information already known from the point of emission.
I'm gonna have to say with this.
I get it.
The funny thing about this is if you go look at a galvanic cell battery and the way a galvanic cell battery operates, it matches what he's talking about. Where when the way it works is that at the anode, a particle is going to break apart, and the proton side is immediately at the cathode, and so that's what actually gives the cathode then a charge, which it changes the charge because presuming they're both at approximately zero, this one breaks apart, and now half the charge goes up to this. So this is now -1, and this is +1. And that's when the soul side, the electron side, slips into the mercurial fluid, and it goes across the river Styx and meets back up with the other side over at the cathode, and that's the usable power is where those two meet. But the proton, that side immediately was already over there. That it didn't even. The time was the actual other side.
So maybe that's what I'm thinking, because, like, I guess it's the idea of I think you might have just helped me a little bit by mentioning how that you have that electron or that power being created through the mercurial process, as you call it. Because I'm just wondering, like, where this connection between the two, like, I don't know. Am I making sense at all? I feel like I'm stumbling over myself here, but it's because I'm trying to stay within the framework of the physics that we've laid out so far, and not my own interpretation or someone else's interpretation. Because I know there's 100 ways to view it.
I think one of the hardest things to conceptualize is always going to be information and exactly what it is, how it works within said systems. So, like, that's why, to simplify it, like, even when the photon is split by a crystal and it's basically entangled, don't look at it as two separate objects. Still look at it as one single object, because it still has all of the information.
Yes, it's still one thing.
And I guess I've always been looking at it as one thing, but I've always been looking at it as one thing still connected to it through, like, an etheric field. but that
I
doesn't.
do agree with Chris on that part, though.
And
With Chris
because
on that.
then the issue would be if that is happening, then when they're doing like experiments that they're saying, oh, we could entangle a certain instrument with something that we put in your body and then do surgery that way. Well, is there a field then going through the body that they're not considering because they think it's just?
I do not think it. I could almost say that I guarantee that in our lifetime that will not be possible because of how hard it is to keep entanglement.
Yeah.
So once interaction happens, the entanglement breaks.
Okay.
But for the photon situation, because distance becomes 0, it's a little weird because any interaction is already happened at the point of emission. So like imagine I tell you to go, from point A to point B down a certain path, and I'm going to tell you everything that you're going to encounter, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to know everything before you even go out on that trip. So every interaction, there's no linking that's actually necessary. There's no any kind of distance, anything at all, because all information is already known at the point of emission or creation.
Okay.
So it's like imagine you already know everything before you even set out on it.
Yeah. Now, what would you guys make of the claim that the speed of light may not always be constant due to pressure, temperature?
It's kind of a misnomer anyways. It's a constant that they picked in order to do mathematical equations. Light doesn't all travel at the same speed.
So they do it to make the math easier.
Okay.
Yeah. They needed
because
a constant
it's relative.
mathematically.
So what is going on in this situation relative to the speed of light? So like that's why in Einstein's equation for velocity, once you get up to a certain speed, you would think, so 1 + 1 = 2 for the most part in the simplest context, right? Well, if we put a mile per hour on it, and now I say, what's 100,000 miles an hour plus 100,000 miles an hour? Well, because the speed of light is what it is, and Einstein treated it that way, you don't get 200,000 miles an hour because you're tracking it relative to the speed of light itself.
Mm-hmm.
So you actually come out to like, and this isn't the actual answer to it, but you would come out to like 198,000 miles an hour or 100,000 miles an hour. It makes the math easier to understand the complex things that are going on. So like you're looking at everything comparative to this foundational speed, this foundational reference.
Yeah, so it's not it's a thing made for a mathematical equation. It doesn't really match reality.
Yeah. Okay.
What you're saying matches reality, where absolutely those factors are going to change the transfer. But
and I'm assuming like that's why with the speed of sound being less of a thing that they're so insistent on being constant, because that's more obvious in its change based on.
It's the same. It's the idea that geometry and mathematics. It's all based around measurement. The mind itself is it's experiencing objective reality, not necessarily directly, but through the lens of the mind. So therefore, if the mind is this machine almost, if you want to be simplistic about, of measurement, and mathematics is of measurement, then therefore, like what you're saying, Luke, you have to maintain these constants just for the ease of the calculations, Yeah.
See, and this is all why all of this is at the end of my video. You hear me say that the future writes the past. The high mind, the thought happens first before you have to think about something before you build it. You see, and this is what he's talking about. All thoughts, they have already happened. So so it's that actually wrote the past. The future actually writes the past.
Retro causality.
Yeah.
That was something I was going to ask as well. There's something I came across years and years back now, and again, my knowledge of physics is limited, and I look at symbolism, I look at philosophy, I look at cross cultural mythology, things such as that. But there's something I came across, the block universe, the block theory of time, which it's almost similar to what you were saying, Luke. Do you want to? I see you nodding your head. Do you want to make comment upon that and this idea and perhaps theories of time? What is time?
Actually, because Einstein himself is one that introduced one of the widely accepted ideas of time. Um, when we get into kind of the black hole structure, after I talk a little bit about information, I do not agree that time is the fourth dimension like he framed. And once we get there, I'll be able to explain it a little bit easier. But I don't agree with the block theory either. And that actually comes through CPT, which is the charge, parity, and time symmetry for particles and stuff like that, which we can get into. I mean, either we can talk a little bit about it now or after the whole black hole thing. It's up to y'all.
We'll go through the black hole thing, and then we'll touch upon that, man.
All right.
If
So
you will, please.
absolutely. Real quick though, Ben, one thing you said was actually pretty interesting. So the part where you were talking about the feminine and the masculine meeting and creating that moment of an unstoppable force meeting a immovable object. Say what you said again real quick because my equation literally says that.
Yeah, it's what do you get when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? And that's life.
All right. So everybody remember that just for whenever we get to that part. Just for a quick clarification, you could simplify it to where say data is numbers, right? Information is how that data or how those numbers are organized. So, with that said, and if this sounds like I'm reading off of a script, it's because again I did that episode last night and I had my notes wrote down and all that stuff. So I just pulled them back up just to read them to y'all as well. So, information itself is almost universally recognized. Some, including myself, consider it fundamental. So much so that some, including myself again, have called for a solid conservation law. This absolutely makes sense when you understand that information is directly tied to everything. So, if energy must be conserved, then obviously so should information. In my own work, I actually do implement a strict conservation of information law. But as far as the other three main models, it gets a little hostile. Those three models being classical, relativistic, and quantum. In classical physics, information is assumed to be preserved implicitly. An example would be knowing all of the positions and velocities of every particle. This means you can predict the future and retrodict the past. In relativity, information flows through space-time smoothly. The geometry of space-time curves, but the evolution of systems follows rules. Energy and momentum are conserved, and the structure of space-time itself carries the memory of interactions. Finally, quantum systems evolve by unity from Schrodinger's equation, which is information preserving. Sounds like it's all handled pretty well, right? Well, all three of them catastrophically fail in one single scenario, and that scenario is black holes. Um, Classically, when something crosses the event horizon, it is lost forever. General relativity says spacetime ends at the singularity and it has no way to describe what happens beyond. Quantum fails just as well because of its own discrepancies with gravity. However, at the very least, it offers a little insight on how strict information is. Information is so strict that it actually made Stephen Hawking's bow down. So when he was developing Hawking's radiation, he was very adamant about information being lost. But we have found time and time again that everything says information is conserved. So eventually, I think it was around 2004, 2005, he basically had to recant his views and said that it likely survives. In my opinion, I think he was a little upset about it, but it kind of is what it is. Now, this brings us to the holographic principle. Has anybody heard of that before?
Yeah.
No, I have not. No.
Well, this is what that's like what Ken Wheeler's work is based on, Silas. It's all based on the holographic principle.
Right. So the holographic principle itself says that all information needed to describe everything that happens inside of a volume of space can be completely encoded on the surface of that volume. Basically meaning any information that falls into a black hole, quote unquote, will be encoded on its two-dimensional surface.
Yeah. This is like when you have a hologram, and if there's multiple, I guess, projections of the hologram, and one of those images gets damaged, that like in the larger hologram, like all of the multiple images will show that same like mark on it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now, when it comes to Einstein's field equations, he was actually not the one to solve them for the black hole situation. It was actually Carl Schwarzschild that solved them. For some reason, Home Dude was literally on the front lines during World War II and was like, and he was solving trajectories for like mortars to help them actually start hitting stuff. For some reason, he decided, oh, I'm just gonna solve Einstein's field equations, and this is my break time from the war, and I'm gonna solve this. Don't know why he decided to do that, but I guess everybody's got their
Nobody
thing.
likes being bored.
Right, exactly, you know? Ugh.
As you
So
do. As you
yeah,
do.
yeah, exactly. So a lot of the black hole situation stuff comes from Schwarzschild's actual solve for it, and he solved for what you could consider the most basic and simple black hole, meaning it has no charge association, it has no spin, any of that. It is just a simple, ridiculous warp in space time. Once R within that equation is set to 0, you get the event horizon itself. Once you start getting closer to the singularity, that's when the actual equations start to break down. You start getting infinities, undefines, all of that stuff. So the equations literally themselves die out inside. Now, in my equation, it doesn't happen like that because of an interesting feature that I implement in it, and it is what I call the memory term. So what it does is it actually forces a conservation of information within the field itself to where once you start getting to that collapse, that memory term actually flips on. And what it does is it resists the collapse and ends up creating a barrier shell, which is exactly what Ben was talking about.
Exactly, yeah.
This is a shell that nothing can really go through. It's too
Mm.
rigid. It's too dense. So everything basically just gets smeared across the surface, similar to how in the holographic principle, um, the information just stays on the surface of the black hole, and we never actually see anything come in or go into it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because Einstein kind of embedded time and space together, hence space time, all of the equations will have an effect for time. I did not do it that way, and I actually have time as an emergent factor. And what it is, in the sense of being an emergence, is when you have energy actually interacting and transferring information, these these interactions are what actually create said moments in time, and they actually control what time is in general. So it itself is not an actual dimension. When you get to a environment where it's very dense, the energy is not able to interact as quickly, so you get slower times. When you have a lot of energy and information interactions, this will also cause a slowing in time. It's because energy must also always be conserved, right? Information must also be conserved. So there's one thing that has to take the hit, and that is time. So as far as the time dilation and all of that goes, all of
Mhm.
my stuff matches what basically Einstein was saying, but it gives it more of a mechanic and it actually removes it from being a dimension itself. That's
Yes.
why the block universe theory of how they, for the simplified, say everything happens all at the same time. Not necessarily, because in my theory, time is actually emerging from said interactions themselves.
You're right. Yes. Yes. I see. I see.
So like there's a
It's
talking head for physics that I do not enjoy listening to this individual, and I'm not gonna throw out his name, but I'm sure after like 3 guesses most people could get it. But he once explained it to where, what Einstein was saying makes sense because you've never been in a place without it being a specific time. What I am saying is you being in that place actually makes that time.
yes.
Which is like if you're in a forest and you see the tree fall, like it falls, but if you're not, did it actually fall? Because you have to be there to experience it almost in a
Not
way.
necessarily, because energy as a whole is still setting that time. So
Okay.
the grass that was there, it recognized that the tree fell.
Okay.
The tree itself recognized it. It's not just us that are active participants in it.
Okay. Got you. Got you.
It's not a sort of inherent dimension. It's something that emerges merely from the interactions of, let's just say, those things within the medium itself. Yeah,
Exactly.
I see.
And the
I see.
medium is a active participant because there's
Right.
two parts to it. So one, it depends on the density, right? So how stiff or relaxed the field is to allow a specific amount of interactions to actually happen. So like if I put you in a pool of water, tell you to swim around, you're going to be moving decently well. Now, if I fill it with tar, you're not going to be moving around as well
Hmm.
because the field itself is much more stiff or dense.
Yes,
And
exactly.
then, depending on how many interactions in general are going on, that will also affect it as well. So, like a good example of this, and actually, there's 2 because Ben's diagram that he had earlier, where up at the top was kind of more of a dispersed, density. It wasn't as dense, but once you went towards the bottom,
Yeah, I was going to
it
mention that. Yeah.
got more dense, right? So, in my view, the, as above, so below situation is because the field itself works vertically. Now, it doesn't matter if we're talking about radially or whatever. If we're talking about a flat surface or a sphere or any other shape, you still have vertical, orientations for that. But of course, the more stiff regions are going to be in the more dense regions. So as you go away from wherever that region of stiffness or density is, the field kind of relaxes. So kind of going up the depiction that he was giving. Or once you go a little bit closer, things start getting more stiff or more dense. For anybody that's familiar with Tesla's work, he was having an issue of trying to get the energy that was above us that flowed more freely down to where we're at. And the issue was that up there it flows freely. Down here, it's too pressurized, or the field itself is too dense. It's
Yeah.
too hard for the energy to actually move around in.
Yeah, so matter itself in that sense would be a simple slowing of the velocity of even interactions themselves, or just is it the medium itself that's
The medium.
right? Okay.
So because it works off of a gradient. So imagine you have just a mesh square.
Mhm.
In more dense or stiff areas, that mesh is going to be tighter.
Yes.
In areas that it is more relaxed, they're going to be more spaced out.
Right. Yes. Yes. I see. I see. So that interestingly, again, just go into symbolism. That would tie in with sort of the four elements as well, because you see the same polarities there. So, for example, we have fire and air, which are the masculine principles. Again, we see one, or even to take an even better example, the feminine of earth and water. One is far more free. One is less, or in the case of density, one is far more dense, the earth, and one is less dense, the water. With fire and air, one is less dense, the air, and of course, fire is far more dense. So it's yeah, I mean that's very interesting. Please continue.
So some might say that I resist the idea of a singularity, and I would like to add clarification as to why. So Einstein's work is not the only one that actually either you could say predicts or allows for singularities. The fluid dynamics Navier-Stokes equations actually allow for them as well. Now, of course, we can't jump into a black hole to be like, "Oh, is it in there or not?" But we can obviously check out fluid dynamics, and to this day, a singularity has never appeared in the fluid dynamics. So the vortices of said fluid dynamics. I mean, one, could you imagine I mean, I don't know who all takes a bath, but it doesn't work that well in a shower. But imagine you drain your bathtub and a singularity appears in the drain. That sounds like a horrible time. But the
You
equations
gotta
allow
push
for
it
to
in. You
happen.
gotta push it down with your toe. Then
Good luck with that. Good luck with that. Now, to clarify even more what I mean, this is arguably the only time that I venture into the philosophy side of things. And it is because I have to make a clarification of exactly what the entity zero and the entity infinity are. So, in mathematics, zero is useful in many different applications, but in the event of actual physics, an issue arises. All of the issues really simplify down to energy. What I mean by that is you cannot have absolute nothingness with no degrees of freedom. At least it's never been observed. There will always be a positive amount. You could also phrase this as you can't have nothing. What I mean is, we all know we live in a dynamic reality where no matter what, even at the smallest scale, something is always going on. For example, even within quantum fields at the smallest scale, there is always a fluctuation going. Um, you can, however, use zero in physics to represent something like an origin point. A visual way to explain this is by looking at a graph where the center is zero, if it's a three-dimensional graph. This would be your origin, your anchor, or your beginning point. On a typical graph, if you move left on the horizontal axis, you'll enter into what is typically labeled labeled as negative numbers. This is fine mathematically. However, in physics, every physical displacement is associated with moving forward in some direction, even if the coordinate we use to describe that direction happens to be labeled negative. At the end of the day, you still have a positive physical change. The minus sign is tied to the mathematical tool we use for systems requiring coordinates. This is actually, for the most part, a rule within physics, and it is why an individual named Dirac eventually came to his negative energy solutions and discovered antimatter. Um, Either way, at the end of the day, in physics, you can't have absolute negative value for energy, at least not in the typical way one might think a negative value for energy would be. For example, think about negative polarity or phases in waveform. They aren't less than zero in regards to the amount. They've simply crossed over into a negatively labeled area of a mathematical tool. Infinity is a little more interesting, though. This is because instead of it not really being a place in physics, it's more along the lines of it not being stated, applied, or explained correctly. A simple explanation of infinity is a representation of all values. However, a more accurate representation of it is a representation of all applicable values, which we actually have a symbol for already, and it's called a integral. Interestingly enough, an integral visually looks similar to the symbol for infinity. It may not seem like it based off of this small difference, but it actually means a lot. You can say infinity would not have an actual distinct value to represent all, while an integral would. In a strange way, this kind of leads to there not being much of a difference between zero and infinity themselves. But if you said infinity is a more philosophical and thought-provoking version of the real thing, which would be an integral, I would agree. Um, and I think the historical, philosophical, and mathematical distinction is purposeful and possibly unknowingly designed to be that way. Now, I can actually point into a specific direction to show exactly what I mean. So, when we get the explanations of the characteristics for like the Christian or Jewish God, we get, omni whatever other attribute. Now, Ben, what is the title given to Odin, for example?
The All Father.
Right. So all infinity is it doesn't have an actual representation. All is the actual real physical representation. So like where a singularity is a area of infinite density in zero volume, it is non-physical. It cannot exist realistically.
Fucking love it. That was awesome.
I'm glad everybody liked that. Hopefully everybody liked it actually.
And I fully agree.
And that
I actually use that same concept to describe why there's two I ams. So the one I am is your 0 point, and the other I am is your all point, and everything in between that's why they're different. This one, nothing's happened. This one's everything's happened. But they're still the same. It's still I am.
So the way I try to break it down is like imagine a box, right? And the box has everything in it. It has all in it. No matter what continues to happen, it will be added to that all. So it's ever expanding, and you could think of it of like, possibly reaching the idea of infinity, but no matter what, at the end of the day, even if it's an extremely large number, it's still going to have an actual value to it, which infinity cannot have a definitive value assigned to it.
That makes sense.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
it was
a
all
long one.
It was all when it was just one, and if it's a billion or some other number, it is still all. It's still the all. I am everything.
Well, this
Exactly.
gets into like the, what is it, the 1.1, was that the Fibonacci, how it's like, but when it's broken down into a more metaphysical explanation, because you have the one, but then you have the actual physical one. Like you have the one that is the all, and then you have the one that is the physical one, and so on and so forth. But it sort of breaks up like that into where, like, yeah, the infinity is always in the one, but it's also not an actual thing. It's separate.
It's
Right, and that's why I was very hesitant to kind of go into the philosophical stuff, but that's why I say like it's the more thought provoking version, to where you really wonder about it, and you wonder, what kind of actual things might be happening into the background, when we get to these extreme amounts, extreme numbers, extreme ideas. Even getting into, like, say we get into imaginary numbers, imaginary axes, getting into patterns, the more interesting repeating fractal type ideas.
in that sense as well. It's similar to the alpha and the omega. Both are sort of I mean, even the beginning itself, of course, is that potential of the beginning brought into a sort of energetic disparity or manifestation of it, right? Of that potential. But the idea you see with the dissolution at the end, so the alpha and the omega, is that it almost mirrors that same process. So I guess in the middle itself, you have, again, you brought the integral. So the integral is the infinite, which makes the entire system fundamentally complete. And it's complete because, jump in, sorry, man.
No, you're good. I was just unmuting it for after you were finished. I was gonna say,
All right. Yeah.
the alpha and the omega, I would say that is actually what puts the brackets there to
Mhm.
separate the idea of infinity from the integral. So the integral would be from alpha to omega, while infinity wouldn't have that bracket there.
Right. Okay. I see.
And both the alpha and the omega are everything.
Yes.
They're entirely different, but they're both everything.
Right. So beginning and end, you don't have to put a distinction where that beginning and end are. So, like the example with the box can get it as filled and big as you want it to be, but it's still within said brackets.
Yes. So in that sense, this also plays into the idea, and also, I guess, both in a mathematical and philosophical sense, it demonstrates, doesn't necessarily prove, but it demonstrates the conceptual potential for a fractal universe. Yes, and an ever expanding, inflating fractal universe.
Yeah. Because basically you're having every beginning that begets an end, which creates a new beginning, and on and on.
But also because it's fractal, it's going to follow the exact same pattern. So it's like them paintings where the fractal pieces are the same as the big painting. And it just, as you sink into it, it's just the same thing unfolded over and over and over.
Yeah.
To an extent.
Which is part of why we as we experience this life, it seems like everything's a fucking rerun, whether it's history or anything, because it all goes through the same cycle over and over again. And in a philosophical sense, what Odin was doing is he was changing his position in it. You can't change the end. You're going to be there and that end's going to happen, but you can change your juxtaposition on it. So you can be the good guy or the bad guy in the same exact situation, but you can't stop the situation. That shit's going to happen.
So like what Solomon said, to where there's nothing new under the sun. That is because energy nor information can be destroyed. It can only be transferred. So everything from back then is still, for the most part, the same as it is today.
Hey, Chris, can I play a quick funny?
Yeah, go ahead.
And I've been working on a weave in the background, but I don't want to take away from the current convo, but it's very, very loosely related. I'll save it for the end. But this is a funny, guys. This is a funny. They're discussing. Can you see it?
Yeah. Good.
They're literally on Trailer Tales today. They're literally discussing this exact same topic. So let's see what Trailer Tales has to say about this black hole topic.
Topic for the day. Does a straw have one hole or two?
Ooh. I think it has one hole but two openings. If that makes sense.
So I just want to share, they were debating this exact same concept that we're talking about now.
Bars.
I mean, everyone conceives of things in their own way, you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Where is the weirdo spurging about the fucking BLM and shit at?
I have no idea.
Dumbass.
And by the way, they discussed that for 15 minutes. But go ahead, Luke. That's how I prepared for the show today. Watching them.
You're all good. You're all good. And I think one of the other things that we had talked about before I went on all of that was the kind of time situation, and how I was saying CPT kind of provides some clarity on how, I guess, in physics you can interpret like what you can consider negative time, right? So say we have an electron and a positron. So you have a particle and its anti-particle. So charge, or C is charge, P is parity, which parity just means a mirror effect, and whether it will follow the same laws of physics for the most part. So like the weak force is actually not part of parity. It does not follow if you mirror it. But then you have time. So if you obviously flip the charge, you have to keep that all the way across. So you have to flip time as well. So for a electron that is negatively charged, the positron would be positively charged. The electron would be in plus time. The positron would be in negative time. If you apply the Lorentz force, right, to where magnetic fields start turning these particles because of their actual charge association, they will actually split ways. So, like, one will curve left, the other will curve right. This is because the negative time thing only applies to the actual mechanics of the object. So, like, a positron will spin, quote unquote, in the opposite direction of said electron, thus showing the different curves within a like an E field or a magnetic field, whichever one. So the negative time thing isn't necessarily that the object is going backwards in time. It's actually just showing a reversal of the mechanics that are going on.
And it's exactly what it's sort of similar to what you were mentioning regarding the emission. This it's not it's not necessarily it's not what the word be, it's not necessarily it's not changing the sort of source or the emission of the thing, but it's simply just trying. What would the term be? Oh, please continue. I've lost that thought.
Yeah, you're all good. You're all good. I mean, for the most part, I think that covered what we were talking about. I mean, unless y'all wanted to get into the dimension stuff, but that's all up to y'all.
There's been an interesting way I've been able to think about time, and I think it might. I don't know. Maybe it'll help some people with the idea of everything having that's ever happened existing, even though there's always things being added to everything that's in that little box example that you were giving. And it was, I'll often describe how, and I got this idea from Lost, and I thought it was a good idea. I don't know if that's what they were going for in Lost, but it was like they were in the last seasons of Lost. They're in this alternate timeline, which turns out to be a purgatory. But that purgatory, where their soul is, simultaneously is always in existence, despite the fact that they're living in reality in the material realm at the same time. So I take that as like their spirit or higher self is always in the metaphysical, while they're also in the material. So, and the material life is playing out, eventually going to meet that metaphysical part of themselves when they die. So it's like you have everything in that metaphysical realm where your soul or higher self is, but you also have additional things being added to it all the time in the material, because your whole life hasn't played out yet, at least according to how you understand it in the material. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. That's what typically I use a idea of a logbook to kind of explain it, but yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
It's like we're already dead. Just basically what I'm trying to say. So we're gonna meet up with our soul, spirit is gonna be connected to the metaphysical and material part of ourselves. The ego eventually is gonna connect to that part. We're there, but we're also here. We just don't know what the hell's going on there.
Exactly.
About the same things that are going on here.
Probably, yeah.
As above, so below.
Yeah.
I never do understand those people that think that they go into some different weird paradise or something, like which story doesn't have gods fighting constantly and in battles and wars and doing all kinds of shit.
Same shit, different dimension doesn't sell as well though.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I'm interested as well on that topic. The idea of paradise from a psychological point of view, and you see it throughout every religion. What are we necessarily looking for in that? Are we? It's almost like human beings have this urge that we want to simply just end this sort of conflicting paradigm that is existence. We want to jump in then.
In heathen, in Odinist Germanic, we don't have that feature. Whatever you are in this life, you're gonna go be in the next life. So we have multiple areas that you go to when you die. It's not a duality. There's a whole cornucopia of places. So like for myself, I'm a farmer, so most likely I would go to a place called Folkvanger, and that's where farmers go, and you continue fucking farming. You know, if you were the most famous one, obviously, that everybody talks about is Valhalla. What they don't realize is that's nothing like a heaven. Valhalla is for the most hardened, happy warriors on the planet. If you truly just want to go have battle, that is the place you're going to go to, because that's all they do. They literally fight all day and all night, and fight all day, and then the dead ones at night are resurrected and they feast and then get up and fight again the next day, because they're going to go. That's the shock troops for the last battle. Not everybody wants to do that shit. Like, so it depending on what type of function you typically want to serve in this life, that's because in the afterlife, you're still going to be that same person. You're still going to serve those same basic functions.
That's what I was about to say. The individuals that are in Valhalla, they're essentially waiting for Ragnarok to go to battle, like on Odin's side, right?
Yeah, they're the shock troops.
Right.
The most hardened, fucking battle-ready people of all existence.
Yeah, so you're getting sent to this place to get messed up on a daily basis, just to go to war again at Ragnarok.
Yeah, and the only people that go to that place are the ones that die with a sword in their hand, that just loved fighting. They didn't blink when it came time to fight. They because, which makes sense, because at Ragnarok you're going to fight these unearthly forces that are going to destroy the gods. Like, so you need the dudes that aren't going to blink, that'll charge right into the mouth of the fucking lion and not care. That's the only dudes you want, and so that's all they are. And I'm not one of those dudes. Like, if I look outside and I see Fenrir and I see this fucking, ginormous monstrous beast that devours everything, I'm gonna be like, I don't see why I'd need to fuck with that.
I'm gonna be honest, I would try to pet it. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah, I'm good. He just ate Odin. Like, I'm not Odin.
So, Ben, is there an in-between space in between those lives in your model?
There's a recycling. That hell is basically where you go to get recycled. In our cosmology. You even look at the story of Balder. Balder is an etheric being, and when he dies, he goes to hell. And there he's going to gain density, and then he's going to manifest on this world during the next cycle. Is the way that's supposed to happen. So you're getting recycled. I think that the great work takes you out of that cycle. You almost, because I think basically what Luke was describing as that hard shell inside of the black hole. This is what we would call the firmament, or the shell of the cosmic egg, or however you would want to term that, and you reach this almost like a superfluid state where that won't hold you in. But I think at the end of the day, like, you just go up to another level where it's still the same fucking thing. Like,
that's similar to like the Mithras legend, right? I think Tracy Twyman used to talk about that, how when she was even doing like the board sessions, he tried to get into a new reality and wound up just restarting.
Yeah, you're just gonna, and even if you pass this, you just go become a more powerful being in the same fucking play.
Yeah,
you changed your position, but you didn't really change the play.
Yeah,
like, which can be a little disheartening. Which is part of why Odin says, if you want to be a happy man, do not become wise. Hey, the two things don't go together. Hey, little bit.
Is now a good time to share a bit of a weave I've been,
of course,
in my back pocket? It's loosely related.
Well, pull it out your pocket, man.
All right, let me unfold my. Hold on. Let me unfold my paper. All right. Chris, can you share some screen? I have like 6 or 7 screens. And I'll run through them quickly. All right, so this is some Islam stuff, modern day Islam, and I'm bringing this up for a reason. This will all tie together.
It's because Ronin is Muslim.
Sure.
I'm just kidding.
First of all, the Sufi, which I found a lot of value in looking for. Let me start in a disclaimer. And Chris already knows this about me. I find all of these quote unquote ancient texts and scripts and concepts to actually be phony, mainly because most of the stuff was found in like the evidence was found in like the 1900s, especially in the 1940s and on, after certain three-letter agencies were created. So to push their narratives. So I like to boil things down to real source material that I could find, and I cross-reference that with maps and linguistics, etc. But the Sufi psychology and spiritual evolution is often described in a three-part structure. The human being consisting of the na or the nas or the nafs. That's like your ego, self. That'd be like your NPC, kind of. And I don't say that as an insult. I'm just saying. And then second would be the Kab or the Ka, which is the spiritual heart. And then the third would be the Ru, which is the spirit. Now, I know Regan and I have gone on about the Ka and the Ba and the Ba and the Ka recently. And also I go on about the Ru often, considering the Ru is literally everywhere across the entire realm in linguistics. It's remnants of the Ru. And in terms of the Sufi, the Su, I emphasize the word Su. Like, I know people like to think everything's Sumerian, but I see the Sioux coming from America, the Sioux, by the same name, just a complex spelling for no reason. And just to go offset, things like Kara, you'll see like the Black Sea. What's the name of the Black Sea? It's actually the Kara Denez, as well as the Call. The Call, like the Call Asians, those are Native American tribes, just to throw that out there. But so in reference to, this is just mainstream, something I just quickly found on like Islam. And I found it interesting because I was trying to look up if they had like a tree of life type of thing. This is way early on in the convo. I was like, does Islam have like a tree of life thing? I know they have different symbols. And by the way, I'm not an expert on Islam, but they have this thing, in English, it's the lot tree, and I'm going to get into a lot in a minute. And of course, Quora. Like I said, Kara. You got Quora, right? Kara, Quora. You can interchange K's, Q's, all the same thing. Prophet. But by the way, this is kind of interesting wordplay. Ascension, mirage, right? And also, back to my Islam. By the way, I think Islam started in Kentucky. And so when I look up the word, if you look up like Missouri, the state, that's actually an Arabic word. Mizor, M-Z-R. Miser. That's an Arabic word. So anyway, they're located in the seventh heaven near the Garden of Refuge. Now, if you look up Janus, right? We know the dude. Janus, it might be a reach, but there's a lot of variations of the word Janus, so Yana might be something, Yana might be something, Janus. By the way, when I look up like new, you hear about news, I always in my head think Janus, Janus, the news part as far as messages and things. So, and then you can get to this state by providing your sa as in like to receive, like sa ga, in my opinion. So I break down, when I do my vernacular breakdown, I go syllable by syllable. So sa to receive, ki, obviously, ki, chi, that kind of idea. And then na could be considered something to give. So just something to placehold that. Now, Chris, if we can go to this next one, I'm going to go into the origins of Islam, which is this female goddess. Oh wait, let me stop this and let me share this. Islam is based on a female goddess. There's 3 sisters. So this is the origins of Islam. It's a female god. It's actually 3 females. They're sisters, but I'm going to focus on Allat, right? And this predates, the Arabic and Allah and all that sort of thing. The Muhammad. This predates Muhammad, and there's lots of effigies and stone structures that show the sisters Manat, Allat, and Al-Uzza. These are supposedly the 3 daughters of Allah. And again, there's stone carved reliefs of them. And there's no stone effigies of Muhammad. It's pretty convenient that they say you can't draw them. Pretty convenient story, if you ask me. That's why there's no evidence of Muhammad, like physical evidence. But there is evidence of these ladies. By the way, I when I look at pagan, I see Fae because Fae. If you look in like Liberia, Africa, you can look up the land of Fae. If you guys are into Fae, just look up the land of Fae. It's in the land of Bassa. You have the land of Fae, the land of Pe, and the land of Day. And of course, Gan is like Khan, right? Gan, Khan, Han, etc. So, in my opinion, so it's kind of like the old Chinese city, Peking. It's the same as pagan, in my opinion. That's a side quest. So, and I'm trying to run through this quick because hold on, give me a second. There's some interesting stuff here. I'm going to tie this to America as well, but so in this one place, they still have things related to her. So you have Allat, who is domestic guardian, either Allat, also goes by the name of Astarte. So if you guys want to do your own research, these are some nice little key things to search. And it's symbolized by a white granite stone. In Hellenic times, she became synchronized with Athena, or according to Herodotus, who called her Ali-Lat with Aphrodite. So this is where you get your similar pantheons in names by other names. The whole cross thing of same people, different names, right? And then here's some other things. So there's also a relation between a mermaid goddess named Atar, goddess, right? Here's another word for goddess, Gatis. This tis and other things, and ticks and dicks and all those are Greek suffixes. That's why I started with the Sufi. When you get into the Greek and you get these word changes, they're fixing the su. It's literally suffixes. Sufi X's, literally. So things like Atlantis is not Atlantis, it's Atlan. So if you're going to search Atlantis, Plato's Atlantis, you're going to search Atlan is what you want to search into. She's called the goddess of the harvest, fertility, and love. That's kind of where I was looking to see if she's related to a garden, and I was also looking to see if Janus is related to a garden, even though, so there might be reaching there. But Ilahatan, Elat, also Ar-Rabat, also Arse, or some other names related to her. She's related to the crescent moon. So Allat is where you get the crescent moon thing for Islam. Okay, I'm almost done. I don't know if you guys are like this, but I like this when I'm going to wrap it up in a bow real soon. Call it from mercy. She's called upon for mercy, ease, and prosperity. Fertile soil. After onyx stones are found on her shrine, I tell you, it was considered sacred to her. So she's she's known as the first. The first is the lion is one of her main animals. So I'm just going to fast forward. Another fun name, Alatu. So these are all different names of the same situation. So here is, so they're constantly, and when you research, this stuff, a quick Google search isn't going to do it. In fact, this isn't how I research. I just had to find this. But they're constantly trying to destroy this stuff. So they just in 2015 attempted to destroy this lion, which is the lion on Alat. So they were able to reconstruct it. So I'm going to stop this, and I'm trying to go quick. Can you share this real fast, Chris? This is just a quick
Gotcha.
side quest. So I was trying to see if there's any 8 stars related to her. There's, of course, you can look at the effigies. But when you look up Al-Andalus, this is the name of Spain. This is when, your Christopher Columbus stories and the Great Inquisition, right? Or 1491 and 2, right? So when you break this down symbol by symbol, and it has an 8-pointed star, on, day, da, I kind of think it could mean like related to like a fae. But when I say fae, I'm not even really talking fairies. I'm talking more like energy, like fit, kind of thing. Super loosely related. And then loose. So in my opinion, this is where you get the word loosh. So if you look up, I asked an Ethiopian lady, how do you say thank you in Amharic in Ethiopia? And of course, go down the Abyssinia, abyss route. But she said, Ama se ganalu. Ama se ganalu. And she emphasized the word lu is something that you're of great respect. You're giving that person, you're showing that person a ton of respect. So in Amharic, America, in Amharic, go search for Prester John, the priest king, the god king, if you want to look up how Ethiopia is actually in America. Amharic, so loose in is like your spirit. It's like it's where you get the word loosh from, right? In my opinion. So let's move on real fast. I'm going to tie this up in a bow just in a second. So here's one of the effigies with the 3 sisters. If you guys want to look up the 3 sisters, here's their name again: Al-Uzza, Al-Lat, and Manat. Now, let me just show this real fast, Chris. This shows how you got from, and I'm going to try and increase it. So how did you get from Alat, the goddess, to Baal and all these other things? Dude, where's my bottom thing here? So how did you get from Alat, the goddess, all the way to Baal and all these Allah and etc.? So essentially, in the beginning, it was the 3 goddesses, right? And they're calling them idols, of course. And you can look into this. This is, basically all the stuff. And here's all the different names: synchronism, Athena, right? Aphrodite, right? And Uzza, I'm not familiar with Aphrodite and Isis, right? So Uzza is also kind of synchronous with Isis in the pantheons. And then Manat is doesn't say, but anyway, you go from these 3 goddesses of Islam, then you go over to the Noah. It says the Noah idols, Yemen, right? And it says might be hard to see, but the Yemens inserted their Noah story, right? Then you go to the high god, that's where you get into Allah and stuff, right? So now you're getting into Allah. And you also have Al Rahman, or and the rest you kind of know, right? Oh, here's some other things, and then you get into the ball, right? Then you get into ball and all that. So I'm almost done. Let me share another screen. Doobie. I'll just fast forward to this, just for grins, and this is my final thing. So I'll try and increase this so you guys can see. So all the names of Alat. This is where I live, by the way. Alat, right? Na. This is where I live, right next to the Eto Wa pyramids. They call them mounds. Side quest. If you look up I'm the expert on the Eto Wa mound. I'm the expert on all the pyramids around here. I've done a lot with them. So you actually find, it's funny because they'll find, and I don't say that with an ego. I mean, like, so when you look up Alat Una Lake, it's on the Etowah River. They put a dam there. They covered up Etowah town. Eti, it means to speak, right? And also in Jamaican, Ya Mayaka, it means I and I, etal, right? And then Wa is like the Almighty. So Etowah is like the breath of the Almighty. You also have Shaw pyramids here that are destroyed. And you also have Leka pyramids destroyed. Leka, leak. We got a leak, right? If you're in the CIA or something and you go, we got a leak, right? That's information you're not supposed to know, right? Occult information. So those were destroyed as well. But anyway, you have remnants of these words. Oh, in the Etowah pyramids, they found giants, right? They excavated the smallest mound, found stone tombs of a 7+, almost 8 foot, 9 foot giant, then covered it back up and still tell you there's nothing but dirt on there. And they said they didn't bother to excavate the main mound. This is super side quest because there was nothing to find there. It's like, okay. And they took, by the way, they've taken all of the artifacts that they had right there. They took them away last year, and now they have a visual media arts thing. I have videos and pictures of all of the artifacts there. So anyway, this is my final thing. Remnants of Alat is all in these names: Pennsylvania, Alabama, Florida, Iowa, Kansas, right? Kansas, Ohio, Georgia, and even a place in Germany. So anyway, I'm hoping some people maybe found some little like word connection rabbit holes they can go down with that quick little thing there. And how is that related to Phoenix or physics? I don't know, but it is a little bit of history, kind of the source of some of these, fundamental of these topics. Anyway, bye.
I was literally waiting for you to tie them into somehow the alchemical
Well, there is
conversation on physics, and you're just like, it just shows that it all might be bullshit, which I get. I get the argument.
With the symbology, is there, but it's not. You can't just Google this stuff. They try and hide it. They can cover it up. So it's not a quick.
It wasn't just a long spiel of non sequiturs.
Long story short, there's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
They're repeating the words. They're keeping the symbology for them as well. And that's what I got out of it.
And we are lucky to have Ben here. And Luke, I don't know if you do mess around with any sort of chemistry, alchemy, in your own sort of lab, but I know Ben does, so at least Ben can confirm a lot of the stuff through doing it himself, which I know Ronin would appreciate.
Yeah, it's honestly quite amazing because, literally you take salt out of a plant and you hit it with fire, and all it does is harden it and make it sit. It's just the same. But after you get done with the great work and you unite it with the sulfur, as soon as you hit it with fucking a little bit of heat, it just vaporizes off, and that salt all of a sudden can fly. You're like, wow, that's really weird. Like, don't know how this happens. Well,
Oh, and to the chat on the stuff that I said, I'm sorry, Benjamin. I just want to say, Chris, I've been sharing this stuff for several years now on the internet. So that isn't my only this quick thing. This is hours and hours and hours and hours of shares with maps and with other things related to that, with the symbology, with the the symbols that go along with it. And so just for the chat, and again, I'm not saying just for the chat, I'm not saying I'm a pyramid expert. I'm saying I'm an expert in my region right here. That's what I'm saying. So just know I'm not coming from a place of ego. This is I've been doing this in my own way, sharing. So that's why I'm talking fast, because I'm like, I don't know if people are into this or not. Let me just skip through some stuff. So, and there is, alchemy involved if you dig deeper. But again, I just didn't want to take over. I was trying to, that's just for the chat. If you guys are thinking I'm like, you're like, your point then, it's like, for me, I find this so valuable to where I boil down all the BS, even the occult BS of the late 1800s and early 1900s. And like, it's the scaffolding of the psyche. So that's why I shared that. And that's why I consider. So that's just.
Well, I mean, I would contend that all occult from 1850 forward is garbage.
Agreed.
Like Blavatsky and all them, they were horrifying. And
they
completely took lab alchemy out of the occult, and the occult was built off of lab alchemy. Those understandings had to have a grounding to them, and then through the experiments, you got to understand the mechanisms of the universe, and understand that also happens on these larger levels. And they took that out, and then because they took the lab out, they're fucking because their story didn't need to be grounded in the lab anymore, they could say whatever dumb shit they wanted to.
Yeah.
I do have to head out, but I would just like to say that this has been great. I very much enjoyed it, and I'm very thankful that you had me on.
Oh, we appreciate you coming, man. And Silas actually bounced out because he's in Scotland right now, so he's like, his time is way forward. I think he was started to get real tired. He said he had a great time with everyone and wanted me to make sure I pass that on to you guys too.
Thanks you for coming in, Luke. I always love having chats with you. As Luke was saying, he's not anti-philosophy or seeing the occult side of it. The two things, and that's a part of why him and I get along, we're coming at it from different aspects, but the way it works is still the fucking same. And you need to understand the physics part of it. You really do. This is why when I just talked about just now, the occult breaking away from the lab and then getting ridiculous. You got to bring that lab shit back in, and then you start getting better understandings. Thank you so much for coming, Luke. I always love talking with you, brother.
Oh, absolutely. It's always a blast. And anytime y'all want me to come on again, just let me know.
Absolutely. We definitely would love to have you on again soon.
So I hope everybody has a good night.
You too, brother.
Thank you.
Regan, are you even still with us, buddy?
Yeah, I didn't want to.
Oh my God! Welcome to the show. Do you want to say anything before we start wrapping up in a little bit?
Well, I could have said plenty of things, but when you have this many talking heads all at once,
we value you.
There's not enough time, Chris. This chat would have to go for many more hours, and then like, I'm not going to repeat stuff too. If I agree with people and I'm just going to say it in my own way, that's just another opinion. There's no, if I'm not adding value, I'm not going to say anything. You know what I mean? And
I
like
hear you.
when we're all in agreement on a whole bunch of stuff, or maybe have like one little point here or there. And like I'm tired, man. This is
I know.
this has been a long week for me. I got stuff going on right now. This is not. If you guys wanted to have me on, you could have prompted me to say something. I'll jump in, but once we get greater than 4 people, like I'm probably not. I'll just be a fly on the wall. I'm gonna just listen. I haven't heard a lot of these viewpoints, so I like to hear all of them as well, and like I'm diving into all my own little circles and stuff going on, trying to keep up with all these different things. So,
I just missed you. I just missed you during the chat.
I see that.
We have to do another one soon.
Oh, for those that don't know, Regan has a ridiculous amount of value to add. He's made awesome slides. All the symbology would have fit right into the talk earlier between like Benjamin and Luke. But I just want FYI, Regan, he has a lot of stuff to share, original things as well.
Yeah, no, and I'd love to share all that, but it works a lot better when the discussion is going and you can pull the images up and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of how I talk too. Like I don't like auditory. Like I'm very bad at lectures, and it's not how I learn. I'm kinesthetic, I'm visual, so it's all that's why I discuss that way and talk that way. I understand a lot of people are, we got a lot of scholars, a lot of readers, and I can enter that world. I can do okay with it. I practice in it, but it's not my strength, right? Those are my weaknesses. So,
dude, your slides are awesome. I look at them. I downloaded them because you hooked everybody up, and I look at them all the time.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I honestly think most people learn like you. Most people, that's part of why through most of history, information was passed orally with symbology and stories. That's definitely the best way to learn for most of us.
Oh, absolutely. And that's been the way you did it with how you got your chart set up and the way you explain it. Like I can grab those ideas perfect, and like I know where you're coming from. The engineering mind and the tree and how they overlap, interconnect. You got your, dividing line through the center. Like it's all very like I think most people can consume that information much easier than if we just sit here and talk at each other, like we're not going to get too far.
And to one of the chats, Egypt. It's funny how, you just put an A in front of these things, like put an A in front of Ethiopia, for example, when you're searching old world things. It's just these little sleight of hands. Can throw like the most intellectual person off. But anyway, go ahead, Reagan. I'm sorry. I was just responding to the chat. Then there's someone speaking a language. I don't know. What language is that?
That's Greek.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, do you have a time travel? Is it ancient Greek or current Greek?
That's ancient, I'm pretty sure.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay, so we got a time traveler in the chat. Might be one of the first ones.
I don't know, because fucking digital stuff messes everything up.
I don't think there's anything else that I wanted to ask Ben that I'm forgetting. I know there has to be something.
Good night, Janice. She's going, or he or she's going tonight.
It's
Kowalski. I love all this. Shout out
Ronin,
to all my
it's pronounced Janus, just so you know.
Janus. Yeah, that's how I typically pronounce it.
Janus. Maybe it is Janus.
I say Janus.
I think in Poland.
Janus. Yeah, I think that's
Janus.
It seems like that's probably Polish, the Kowalski.
Or just anus.
They were commenting earlier about disagreeing a lot with there being time being real, which was something I was gonna see what I think I know Regan and Ronin's thoughts on it, but Ben, I wanted to see what your thoughts on that were.
I mean, there's definitively a movement from A to B, and our experience of that is time. So, like most things, it's going to have more subjectivity to it than what a person imagines. and it's not as it's not as even as what people imagine it is, where it's not really flowing in the way people imagine it is. Again, this is like the superconductor idea, where in a superconductor the thing happens at once.
Yeah.
You know, so your creator being is a superconductor, where the rest of us are having to experience that transition, where no matter how you want to look at time, there's a sequence of events that happen, and they don't happen at once for us.
Yeah. That's I think we kind of covered a lot of that, like you said, when we were giving that example, and that's how I was kind of thinking of that metaphysical versus physical. And I don't know if you have a metaphysical that's really, because you say it's more like reincarnation into different physical lives in the Norse sort of mythology that you have, or spiritual belief system that you have.
Yeah, you keep replaying it.
Yeah.
You keep replaying the spot. But that's the thing, is the cycle. Time is literally mini cycles inside great cycles inside greater cycles. The same roles getting played over and over. The same things are happening over and over and over. There ain't a fucking thing. All the people that cry around and now about the things that are happening in the government, you can easily go back throughout history and see these same things happening. It's cyclically, 100%. It's, again, you know, we've said it here already. There's nothing new under the sun. And so you just keep playing that smaller role over and over and over again in some new way. But at the end of the day, it's still the basic same thing, you know?
Yeah.
That's why I like to think of it as how to navigate is being a big wave surfer, just riding the tides. Some word play I like for cycles is like sea calls. I don't know, might be reaching, but that's my little grimoire, some of my little personal pro grimoire. But the sea and the tides is very relevant to time as well, not just light. So anyway, that's just me.
Dowie, this is going to be a place kind of where logic fails a little bit, because logic in its true essence is the naming of a thing, and the place that at least our system of logic fails is to name the essence of a thing. So you're going to be the same person in a different body is basically what it boils down to. And it's a very interesting thing. Like in the chat one night, I went to this, I was watching this show called 9/11 is Gay. It's a pretty hilarious show. I recommend it. They put a lot of effort into it. It's pretty fucking hilarious. And my buddy Marcus, he likes to make up different YouTube characters and go in and do weird shit in chats. And he'll say things that are nothing that he normally says, and he'll act differently. But there was something about this person, and it wasn't anything that it didn't say anything I could definitively point a finger at and say, yeah, look, Marcus is, you know, but there was just like a Marcusness to that person. Like there was like an essence and air, and I can't describe it or pin it down for you, but that was fucking Marcus. And so then I got a hold of Marcus and got him on video message. I was like, is that you? And he's like, like, fucking do it. Yeah, you know. So the same thing's gonna apply. This is you know, you're still gonna pretty much be you. This is how you hopefully learn and become something more important, something better and bigger. That's what Odin did. That's what part of why I follow Odin. I want to take the path of becoming something more and transcending the things that I've already just been naturally put into.
I also see, I'm still on the fence about the recycling and this being an exam, a Schumann exam, where you get lighter and lighter and you get a little bit on the scales. Like, one, if it's like weighing my heart against a feather, man, I'm hoping I can get someone to put their thumb on the scale in my favor. Or, but I could tell you one thing, I'm not going to cosmic court, bro. Like after this, you go, yo, after this, now you got to defend yourself in a court case. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And I'm not getting bad directions. Like if someone tells me, hey, go to that portal there, I'm be like, bro, don't give me bad directions. You're trying to tell me I'm getting scammed, not just here, but now I got to get it cosmically scammed. Like, I don't think so, man. I don't think so. But then again, I can't tell you exactly how it works out. It's kind of interesting when I hear some of these internet terms over the years, like imposter syndrome, right? That's kind of like one of those internet things. But I wonder, being authentic versus being kind of an imposter to navigate the goofiness is somewhat interesting. I'm on the fence with where you at, Chris, with reincarnation and in that, all the various things related to that.
I definitely think it's a thing, but I mean, I think Ben is kind of more, it seems like he's saying you either evolve into a different sort of existence somewhere else, which, I mean, I kind of would be more along the lines of that if it was like a positive thing. A negative would be kind of, this is your hell reincarnating here because you judged yourself and
the prison
for some
planet
reason
thing,
returned.
I'm not even into the prison planet thing.
I mean, don't totally throw out that there are people attempting to somehow trap biological entities here for energy purposes.
Well, I think, the illusionists, they in the current realm, takeovers do kind of implement their phony code in front of the actual code. But then there's also different concepts, like if you're like super woo, or let's say like you didn't notice the Mandela effect, right? Just as an example, if I can use that as a term, it means, in my opinion, and I've heard it explained from others, so I'm going to parrot some things that others have said, but it kind of resonates with me. If I can use this woo-woo talk, is like if you're tied to this realm, you're not going to notice code refreshes and firmware things. You're just going to go with the realm. Then there's other aspects where, like, especially in the last several months, I feel like there were some energetic, spiritual firmware upgrades where even the most woo, maybe, I don't think they've noticed, because I don't see a lot of people pivoting. I see a few different people pivoting based on the, I'll just use the word like energy changes and firmware changes of the times. Again, I'm not saying this like I'm cooler, I'm more woo than others. I'm not saying it like that, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. If you're tapped into this realm, maybe you got a prison complex or recycle complex, or if you're not, I can't definitively say. I've listened to all the all the ideas, and still trying to figure out. And at the end of the day, I guess it doesn't matter. But
I mean, part of me resonates most with the idea of you get what you expect.
Yeah, I would kind of go along
that
with
Gnostic
that,
stuff
Chris.
is where you get that prison planet stuff, and it's very
not all Gnostic stuff. Proto-Gnostic stuff is a little bit better with that. Like the Valentinians didn't have the prison planet idea.
So what do you think about? I wonder where this sits with Benjamin as far as Odin and Oversoul, all father in an Oversoul type of thing, and a cosmic audience kind of thing. I've actually heard a cosmic audience is a bit of a narcissistic idea, that you just have literally a cosmic audience watching you, like that's some sort of like, I'm so special. Not that you're not special, but like, no, I'm really special though, because I've got a whole crew watching me up there cheering me on. Or is it there's just me. Maybe I have an Oversoul that's also me. It's kind of, I don't know. I'm just like, and then are there guides and your family ancestors that go, hey, what's up? I'm gonna look out for this guy because he's my 10th grandson of
So
something. You know?
I think you're kind of asking, is there a supernatural aspect?
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah,
I'm curious about that too.
Mostly from your family. Mostly from your family. There's that type of aspect. That is very narcissistic. People to assume that gods are like hanging out and serving you and watching you and at your beck and call. I think today people treat and it's ridiculous. In the New Age movement, it's popular to treat gods as like Pokemon, like fucking Osiris, I choose you.
Yeah.
And in no way, shape, or form do they fucking adhere to the things that God would demand.
See, now I would have a contention with when, like, they're being, how you said, demonic, but not necessarily, I don't even know if I would call it demonic, but negative souls of the dead who somehow are still not totally moved on into wherever they're supposed to be going next, interfering and like getting involved with things still in the physical.
Yeah, that happens quite a bit in Norse German cosmology. They're called Draugr.
Now, do they have an intent, or is it just more like they're mad?
Sometimes.
Yeah. Okay.
Sometimes they're like guarding something, like they're a home or a sword. A lot of times there's a sword involved, like a magical badass sword, and they're gonna keep it even in the afterlife. And then if you try and take it, they'll come fight you for it. There's one story where they kill a guy because he's a real douchebag, and then he either, I don't know which way you would want to look at it, either reincarnates or takes over spiritually or something, a bull, and they have to kill the fucking bull afterwards because the bull, starts like raising hell and killing people and shit. So they have to kill the bull afterwards. And so that concept is fairly common, but nobody assumes that that's gods. Also, land white. Also, there's land whites, which are like creatures of the land, or spirits of the land. Okay. That's originally that's what you're looking at with like your Christmas decorations. Is your you didn't cut the tree down and bring it in the house. You went outside and decorated the tree, and that was bringing the land whites into your celebration. And you'd take them out a little something to eat and drink too.
Okay.
And they've kind of morphed that into you cut the tree down and bring it in your house and decorate it.
Yeah.
Trees were sacred in that tradition, so you didn't do shit like that. Like oak trees, you couldn't even cut down at all.
And that's because like the Yggdrasil, right? Like, because of the tree of life.
Yggdrasil was typically most people, and there's no definitive source on this, but most people assume it's an ash, which the original humans are Ask and Embla, which is an element in ash tree.
Yeah, I was reading that earlier. I don't know if you saw, there's a new J.J. Abrams movie coming out. I literally just saw it today called, I think it's At the End of Oak Street, or The End of Oak Street. And what happens is wherever they're living is like, I guess they somehow get taken to the past. And there's really no explanation as to how it happens.
Right.
It kind of it tied into a lot of like what we were talking about earlier. So it might be interesting. It might not be. I mean, J.J. Abrams can be hit or miss sometimes.
Huh. Yeah, it's interesting because then sometimes when you look at it, when you're looking at the time flow, I've seen theories that you can change where you are in the time flow, but you can't be at the same spot more than once in the time flow.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're the river,
it's a different river and a different person.
Yeah, you can't exist twice in the same spot, but you can go to other spots.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, because even in your own personal time flow, you've already left this place that you're going to.
Yeah.
You know, so you can't be there again. Like you've already been in that spot in the time flow, and you can't exist there twice. Which is
it would be like a paradox, basically, right?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, because then you're literally existing 2 times at the same time, which it can't happen.
Yeah.
Like you can be at different spots in a time flow, but you can't be in twice in the same spot. Like that's 2 entirely different things.
Which I think that's what we're watching. Me, Regan, and Ronin have been watching the show Paradise. It seems like they might be doing something like that in it now. We'll see.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it'd be interesting. I'd go back and yell at my young self, and he'd tell me to fuck right off. We'd get in a fist fight, and he'd win.
but they're always doing it in these shows with entanglement, and that's part of the reason I get so caught up with the entanglement thing, because they're always seeming.
Entanglement is those 2 particles were always one particle, and they're still one particle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's why they're entangled, because they're still actually one thing. The same idea gets used in like Vedic medicine, and actually Emily tells a wonderful story about this, where it works out chemically, but the way they look at it, like this Indian guy had to do this sequence of events that made no sense to cure this woman. Yeah. And it's because the ailment came from this goddess, because this was the problem. And what that is it's literally like a chemical, or it's like a decay chain, that lead and gold really or lead and uranium really are the same thing.
I remember we had it on one of our shows. It was on one of the things we were doing with the periodic table. It might have been the potassium day, but the guy had to like cut the heel that was infected, and he says something over it, and then the person can walk again and is feeling better.
It was because he was treating this root source that was the mother source of the thing, not the fractal source that you're seeing here. And it's the same concept, that this thing is still this thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you had to treat it like it was that thing in order to actually cure the ailment, even though it doesn't appear to be that thing anymore. That to me is where you get that entanglement.
See, that makes way more sense to me than some of the sci-fi stuff that we're getting now.
Yeah, if the 2 things were one if the 2 things were one and you separated into 2, it's still the same thing. They're still tied together. Yeah. You know, like the whole twins can tell when the other one's hurt or something like that, because they're still interconnected, because at one point in time they were one thing, and now they're a split thing, but they're still kind of the same thing.
Yeah, I see. I think a lot of these, a lot of the physicists who are like more so theoretical physicists, they start getting into many worlds and whatnot. Oh God, there goes my camera. But they so they start using that as an excuse as to why there can be 2 at once.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, I don't want to talk about Luke, and he's not here, but is he aware of Einstein the plagiarist? Like, is he aware that Einstein is more of a salesman than an actual?
I'm sure that he is, but that doesn't mean that he can't inspect the work and critique it. He doesn't match Einstein's theories, and even understands that, you know, that there's probably some type of an ether element there, things like that. He understands these things. That doesn't mean you don't critique the work that's laid out. Like I understand what you're critiquing, and I'm heavily in the conspiracy community, but at some point in time, you just want to figure out how things work, and he's critiquing the work in and of itself. So you can credit whoever you want. The work itself is what he's looking at and talking about.
Gotcha. And again, I'm not trying to talk about him like in a negative way. I'm just
Well, you aren't talking about him in a negative way. You're talking about Einstein in a negative way and asking if Luke is aware of it.
well, yeah, I'm definitely not an Einstein fan, and I didn't want to mess up his flow when he was talking, so.
Well, he uses comparative because here's where Einstein sits on it, which is the model that we currently use. And you need to understand that model if you're going to understand the variances that he's made to make that model actually a functional model. If you don't understand the original model, then you can't even have the conversation.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty open. That's why I didn't think it was necessary to get into.
Like in the conspiracy world, in the conspiracy world, I have this problem too, because a lot of times they don't understand the actual story. So if you don't understand the story, you can't debunk the story. You're debunking your own straw man. A perfect example of this is that they say that, you know, obviously it's impossible for a rocket in space to have propulsion. And they say that and then they'll tell you, and you have heard 100 guys, the biggest names, Dave Weiss, fucking Mark Sargent, you name it, say that they have no way that works. But that's not true. You guys just haven't studied enough. And again, once you know the mainstream model, you can then say whether you agree with it or not. But there is a mainstream model which says that in space, because of the lack of resistance, the push that they're getting comes off of the particles that are exhausted out. So these exhaust particles are a solid material item, and it is getting push off of that. And normally in an atmosphere, that would not be enough to do it. But because there's a lack of atmosphere, that little bit of material is all it needs to push off of. So that's the mainstream story. Now that you have the mainstream story, you can counter whether that's a viable thing or not. But you cannot say that they don't have a story, because now you look stupid too.
Yeah, in that an example, yeah, I'm definitely I don't think you can have propulsion in a quote unquote void. I think space is
well, they've changed it from a void to it's basically almost a null, where it doesn't have negative material, but it doesn't have enough positive material to be considered an atmosphere. So they've kind of changed their definitions on it. It's not really a negative anymore, where it's an actual like void or a black hole. It's just like a null.
Yeah, that's where it starts getting difficult, because they are changing it a lot. I feel like I've even heard like there's like the quantum foam theory that, it depends on who you're dealing with, the quantum group or the other group. And they tend to disagree on a lot. Like the people who are still into relativity, or the people who are trying to figure out quantum, and then you have the ones in between who are more experimental. So you're dealing with a bunch of who have all different ideas.
Yeah, I've come to the conclusion that we live in an infinite flat plane, non-stationary plane, and the luminaries rotate above us. So that's where I'm coming from, and it's I'm not, whatever anyone else thinks, that's fine. But in my opinion, that's a foundational, wherever someone lands on what that is. And I'm not even trying to talk about this topic, because I know it's been fleshed out and talked, but some of those, wherever one lands on that, it's one of your fundamental ideas. If other ideas are built on that flawed idea, falsehood, in my opinion, then everything above it in the penthouse is everything above that foundation is also not valid, if I can use that term. I'm just saying where I'm coming from. I'm not trying to tell anyone else what to think, but yeah.
And I'm not really giving an opinion on it, but I am saying that you need to understand the side that you're disagreeing with in order to even disagree with them. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, from just a straight classical argument perspective, yes.
Yeah. Like I can't say I don't like chocolate pudding if I've never eaten
That's why you were like forcing yourself to get into do those debates with all those people, right? On the Dogface Dudes channel, which had to
and
be
still
a
doing
pain.
it.
Yeah.
And still doing it. And I've had numerous comments, some quite long and well put, that talk about the evolution that they've seen since I've started doing this and how I present and the way I'm able to convince people and make my case. Because if we can't reach the people like this is awesome. Don't get me wrong. This is fucking fun as hell. But it's a niche thing. Only people that appreciate the way the universe works and want to get to the secrets of it, which most people don't, are going to click on this and go, oh yeah, this looks interesting, or listen to us talk for 3 minutes and go, this is amazing. Most people are just going to skip right by it.
Oh, froze up a bit.
Did he freeze up?
So I would like to, okay, from a classical argument perspective.
Ben, you froze.
Yeah, I hope he comes back. I want to pose a thing, like I'll use another analogy, right, or example. I also think nukes are fake, right? Nuclear bombs, as they tell it. Now, did I spend years studying fission and fusion and splitting and colliding particles and all that? No, you know what I mean? But also, what I do know is a lot of the quote unquote experts themselves say things like nuclear energy is just a really expensive way to make steam, and all the other things related to nukes. And by the way, I'm not trying to talk about nukes being fake or real. I'm just using this as an example where that's one aspect where I don't have to be a nuclear physicist to come to the conclusion that nukes are fake. One, show and prove. Two, test it and show to scale, right? Most things you can do to scale and replicate. So, like that's one of those things in that classical argument perspective where I don't really need to be an expert, but I just got to know, like, hey man, you got to kind of prove the positive to me, not me prove the negative. Like, can you prove a positive? One can't even do that. The experts can't do that, in my opinion. So that's one where it's like, I'm not going to study nuclear physics to grasp the other side of that concept. It's fake. Why? Because it's mostly it's mostly TNT. It's mostly fake ass cameras. It's mostly models. It's mostly Hollywood. It's mostly all firebombing. It's mostly all that stuff, and no one can seem to do it. So that's more of one of those things again, where I don't have to, again, you know what I mean? And then it's like, okay, well, dinosaurs are fake. Yes, they're fake. Why? Because I looked at the bone wars of the 1800s. There's two people. When did they find quote unquote fossils? And then when they put fossil fuel, peak oil, and that's where having some of this foundational things, and in my opinion, it ripples to other ones' ideas of things. But once you pull away gravity being fake, buoyancy and density, once you pull away, Earth being not a spinning ball, it's a stationary plane, then you get into nukes being fake, then you get into dinosaurs being fake. And you go, oh, well, you're not a what do they call dinosaur experts? Paleontologist or something like that. Well, you're not a paleontologist. It's like, well, yeah, but I know that they faked 90+%. Two parties in the Bone Wars in the 1800s produced most of the stuff that they produced was 90% fake. So you're telling me the 10% that were not deemed fake were real? You know what I mean? So that's another thing where it's like, I don't have to be an expert to know. Like if you're like, hey, how do you know this sandwich is gross? Why don't you taste it? It's like, well, I saw you put poop in there. So I don't need to taste it to know it sucks. I don't like poop, so I'm not going to eat it. So that's where, that some of that comes from, in my opinion, on some things, you know what I mean? Or let's discuss some of these raw legions of raw. It's like, well, that's why I went to that a lot thing. It's like, well, the foundations are phony, in my opinion. So I don't need to discuss Abrahamic religions when the source of them is from America after I've, done a lot of research and things. So, and come to my own conclusions. So, now if you tell me dragons were real, I'm actually a little more inclined to believe because there's actually more. Now I'm not saying I won't get weird. I'm down to get weird, but there's actually more evidence of dragons and titans being real than what were sold as dinosaurs, right? And peak oil, because then that leads into peak oil, right? And peak oil is fake, right? Like that's the second that refuels itself. It's not a matter-based thing, although it is the blood of the ground, the goo. The black goo is like the blood of the earth, in my opinion. It's incredibly important. And they burn it, of course. They destroy it. So
Also, Luke, you said he knew that stuff. He knew about Einstein and that it was really everything about relativity was that he's learned was like to just prove how flawed he thinks it is. So just wanted you to know.
No, that's
and
good.
he didn't take any offense to you saying that either.
Okay, good. I just didn't want to, Chris, you probably could, I don't know, because I've been with other guests where I was like, I'm not going to like say anything. I want to be polite. But I have a feeling Luke knew that, but I didn't want to chime in and say Einstein's stuff, he's a plagiarist and it's fake as stuff and mess up his flow. Because he was on a flow, so I didn't want to mess it up. So thank you, Luke. I wasn't trying to offend you, bro. I wasn't trying. I don't like to talk about people, like that. But yeah,
he said you were good, and I figured that already.
Yeah, I wasn't trying. I'm trying to be. I'm trying to be. That's not my way of speaking poorly of people like that.
I don't know if Ben is if he got knocked off for good.
He also lives in
out here,
Inner Earth.
Yeah,
he's with the Moon-eyed people in Inner Earth.
But we've been running 3.5 hours at this point, so I think we should probably call it.
Dude, and Luke, if you're listening, Nikola Tesla, a real person that existed or someone that didn't even exist at all, and also was I don't think anyone
can answer that question that's alive.
The older Bush, was he there and stole all his stuff? Because you never heard his voice. I'm being silly, kind of.
I know you are.
Kind of, but not kidding. Not kidding.
What do you think? Anyone talk to Ben? I don't want to be rude to Ben if he's going to pop back in, but
I don't know. He lost his internet. We're gonna have to figure that out until he gets it back. So,
well, welcome back, Regan. To you again, my friend. I appreciate you coming and just hanging. You good, dude? You got anything else you want to share before we call it?
Oh no, I think that was all good stuff, man.
It was very fun.
I said, yeah, there's lots of good.
And Ronin, I always love having you here to be a wild card because you are
wild card.
You are the wild card.
Comedic relief,
behaving, dude. And plus,
no, you were. I'm playing around.
I wasn't behaving, but I do like. And besides, Luke was saying a lot of big words with a lot of syllables. If you say something over 3 syllables, I start deer in the headlights and lighting out. But that's me.
Come on, Ronin. It was just simple quantum metaphysics.
Oh
no, a lot of it was difficult, but
just simple.
But it was good.
Quantum mechanical relativity theory.
Yeah, all the thermodynamics. Oh, you're right, Regan.
Just a couple laws, no problem.
Totally. Well, my plan, Regan, was, all right, Luke is spitting a lot of good stuff, high level stuff. If I don't say anything, then I can't prove to people that I'm a jackass. But if I speak, then that would prove to people that I'm a jackass. So I was trying to.
Fucking the cat in the box.
Oh man, that's where it starts getting rough. But all right, guys, let's everyone follow the Ronin experience. Follow Simplified Symbolism. Follow Benjamin Balderson at Benjamin Balderson. I think that's he's probably still streaming on his channel right now, even though I think he's disconnected. Follow Silas Speaks 3301. And did I miss anyone? Luke doesn't have a channel, right?
Symbolism. He said he just recorded something last night, so it sounds
Look
like
for Luke through Ben, because he told me, they were telling me he didn't have anything really yet, but he's a cool dude, and I definitely think we should have him back on. I know we'll have Ben back on, and we'll all be talking. Us three will definitely be talking again with Silas as well soon.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, we should do this all again.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you
Ben
guys
and
for
Luke.
coming.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
And
for
I
having me.
apologize that I was late. That's my bad.
You're always late.
It's a lot of work, man.
California time.
I know.
It's a lot of work. That's why I appreciate when Ronin doing the Ronin experience.
Yeah, we're punctual over there.
He's punctual, and I wouldn't be able to do that because I don't know.
I don't want to step on my other multiverse particle.
Oh wait, Balderson entered the studio just in time.
Here he is.
We were just saying
back.
We were saying our goodbyes. We were saying our goodbyes. We were just about to wrap everything up. What happened? Did your internet knock out?
No, my generator went off.
Oh man.
Oh.
Yeah, the joys of living off grid.
But dude, we had an awesome time. That was great. I appreciate you coming so much, man.
Well, we appreciate you having us. It was absolutely great.
Yeah, Luke's welcome back anytime. Obviously, you're always welcome. We definitely should do another one, like even a part. I don't know if this is considered part 2 or not, but a part 3.
Does Luke have a channel, Ben?
He does not yet. He was recently on Crow, and he's been making his rounds. I need to talk him into making his own channel.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, Ben, I shared your channel in the description. I shared the Deliberating Dogface Dudes channel. I don't know if you guys are still using that or switching over to something different for the TED Talks one. So if you have any other ones, just let me know.
We haven't done anything different. We decided, because there's just expenses to this, and my Benjamin Balderson one is the only one that was monetizable, and so we've just been sticking with that.
Okay, awesome.
We don't push a lot of stuff. We do a lot of member stuff for our members, but for our normal stuff, we just it's there. If you want to support us. We appreciate it.
Definitely. Definitely. Show up to all these guys. We have a lot. I can't believe there's still 45 people watching right now. That was a longer one than we're used to here. But I mean, these are all your people. You got loyal people. They are
used to it.
Yeah, you got loyal people. So that's awesome. It's very cool.
Love you guys.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you. We'll all talk soon. Let's plan something. Let's plan another one within the next few weeks if you're down.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Like I said, I was when I was saying this is an absolute blast when I was leaving, or when my generator quit. This is an absolute blast. This is what I personally enjoy, but I also just recognize that in order for me to spread this, I have to be able to reach people that aren't heavily into it. You know, so it's but for me personally, these are the best.
Yeah, no, it's a good
I'm
time.
back on the Ronin experience. The last time you were on, man, I was in rare form. You caught me, you caught me in it. I was interrupting you. I was out of sorts that evening. I'll put it that way.
You're all right, brother. You're all right. I like you.
Yeah, man, we're always on Ronan's show like late on weekends, so either Fridays or Saturdays.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of debates, just trying to grow, and it's been working. Yeah,
no, I've been seeing your numbers been going up, your subscriber account numbers and stuff. That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's been 5 years since that happened. They have not allowed me to gain subs since 2020.
It's well deserved. I know they do that to a lot of our friends at this point, but I'm glad at least someone's getting followers.
Whew, putting in the work, bro. Putting in the
man.
work.
Yeah, man. All right, guys. We did it.
We did it.
We did it.
We
Hey,
cracked.
take it easy, everyone.
All right. Well, I'll talk soon.
All right, later. Peace.
Later, guys.